Chapter 381. Walked out of the gravestone. The 6 transformations of the Great Day Mo Physique. Light Void Wings, Golden Crow Feet. Day Script Palm, Flame Seal Armor, Midday Blade, and Great Day. Light Void Wings primarily enhance speed, and were as fast as lightning. The Golden Crow Feet enhanced strength, and had the power of 30,000 caddies. When the two were used together, they lead to endless possibilities, and were the 2 moves that Mo was most familiar with. He had also practiced the other 4 moves but never used them in actual combat before. Mo's mind moved again. An even more outrageous thought came out. If he used all 6 transformations simultaneously, what would it be like? When this thought came about, it securely took hold over Mo's thoughts, and was unable to be forgotten. Why didn't he try? The gold light under his feet seemed to unwind like golden threads and quickly climbed up along his calves. Qinghua Shui had no other thoughts in her mind. Blue flowers rose in the 2 hands she held up. The blossoms flew into the sky. These blue flowers that floated in the sky did not blindly chase Mo, but were spaced apart. There seemed to be invisible lines connecting the blue flowers to one another, reproducing and communicating among themselves. When the golden threads reached Mo's waist, his legs were completely enveloped by the golden threads. They were especially thick on his feet. The golden threads continued to climb onto his upper body. Whoosh! A pair of transparent wings suddenly shot out of Mo's back. The dense golden threads continued to spread up Mo's chest, onto his neck, and then covered his face. In a flash, Mo was covered completely by the golden threads all over except for his eyes. The bright golden threads quickly dimmed, and a dark golden suit of armor covered Mo's body. The dark gold scales were the size of fingernails, and were in layers like fish scales. When Mo made the slightest move, they would sparkle like a wave of water. The helmet was round and tightly followed the contours of Mo's face. There was a black horn protruding from the top of the helmet, and rings of patterns were inlaid on the horn. The horn curved slightly forward and came to a sharp point. The pauldrons were like 2 balls of burning flame. On his left arm was a small dark golden round shield. In bright red the image of a flame was inscribed on the round shield. His right hand held a strangely shaped blade. It was broad at the front and narrow at the back. There was no curve on the blade at all. It was as straight as a ruler. The entire blade was enveloped in the flame. The armor was made of small scales that tightly wrapped around Mo's legs, but from the outside, they appeared even thicker. From his feet 5 sharp claws extended outwards, similar to the sabaton like the claws of the fiendish soul panther. The 5 claws of the golden crow feet were like hooks that tightly gripped onto the ground. Mo curiously examined himself. In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao's expression shifted. He suddenly stopped commanding the guard camp. He carefully inspected Mo. His expression quickly changed, his bloody pupil expanding as he exclaimed in shock. Great Mo Physique. Xu Long, who had been receiving Pu Yao's instruction, was confused. Darren, what is Great Mo Physique? Pu Yao ignored Xu Long, his bloody pupil tightly locked onto Mo. How is this possible? How is this possible? How can this boy use Great Mo Physique? He clearly is not a true-blooded Mo. He suddenly turned around his face, his gaze as sharp as a sword. He stared hard at the gravestone. It's you. A faint figure floated on top of the black gravestone. What surprised Pu Yao was this blurry figure gradually became distinct. Clean lines drew out a figure with feminine curves. Wearing a tight-fitting suit of battle armor, she held an extremely strange weapon. An enormous claw that was even taller than her body. The enormous claw was so lifelike it seemed alive. It was hard to imagine what being could have such a terrifying enormous claw. It seemed like the entire figure of the female warrior was under the enormous claw. You. Pu Yao seemed to see a ghost. He paled and was speechless. Little Poo, long time no see. A sweet teasing voice filled with laziness suddenly came from the gravestone. You. Pu Yao's lips shook. You miss me this much? A seductive soft laugh came from the gravestone. The sweetness in the voice seemed to come from the bone. The simple figure drawn by the clean lines on the gravestone continued to come into focus. It was like an invisible pen that was drawing stroke by stroke. On the blank face, eyes appeared and then eyebrows. In a blink, An ambiguously smiling beautiful face appeared on the gravestone. The eyes on this face suddenly blinked at Pu Yao. Pu Yao was stunned, he seemed to be petrified. Long legs reached out of the gravestone as their armor rattled. The figure that floated out of the gravestone like this. Complex patterns encircled eyes that were black like the deep of midnight. Eyes filled with a wildness and seductive gaze. The bark brown skin that was exposed were as glossy as the best silk. The sexy figure was unable to be hidden underneath the battle armor. She walked lightly in front of a statue like Pu Yao. Bending down, she wore a dazzling smile. Little Pu, Pia, without any warning, her right hand grabbed onto Pu Yao's neck and pulled him up like holding up a little chick. Then with a sudden tug, she jerked him in front of her. There was still an enchanting smile on her face, but something seemed to roil in her black eyes, and her tone became extremely hostile. Little Pu, your attitude right now is not very good. The stunned Pu Yao looked dazedly at this pair of eyes. Countless memories came like the tide. His eyes suddenly became moist. Sniveling again, so boring. Pia, the female warrior, relaxed her hand. The vicious expression on her face turned to nothing and she muttered as she walked to the side. After a moment, Pu Yao finally focused. He stammered out a question. Darren, you are still alive? You want me dead? The female warrior lazily replied. She threw the enormous claw onto the ground, laid on it, and yawned. She said indistinctly, Why am I so sleepy again? Pu Yao was unable to restrain himself from showing joy. His lips trembled. After a moment, for some unknown reason, his nose became stuffy and tears welled up in his eyes. He said, Darren, they all died, everyone is dead. The female warrior's body froze. A long while later, she sighed lightly. Yes, everyone is dead. We are the only ones left. The long sigh carried deep loneliness, grief, and guilt. The fully armored Zhuemo felt as though he was a burning ball of fire. There seemed to be thousands of burning streams colliding, bursting and splashing inside his body. They released a destructive presence that made even Zhuemo's mind waver. This was the first time Zhuemo used all 6 transformations of the Great Day Emo physique at the same time. What entered the 10-finger prison was only the consciousness. There was no fleshly body nor Ling power here, so how was he able to use the 6 transformations of the Great Day Emo physique? Was it that his consciousness what was burning now? When this thought came about, Zhuemo felt an explosion inside his mind. Countless golden flames suddenly shot out of the armor and burned. Zhuemo turned to a person made up of fire. What is happening? Pu Yao gaped with wide eyes. He felt everything happening today was challenging the limits of his imagination. Everything was so fantastical and unbelievable. There was an astonishing change happening right now in Zhuemo's consciousness that he could not understand at all. His Great Day Emo physique is about to advance. The female warrior had her laziness back and said unconcernedly, How can he use the Great Day Emo physique inside the 10-finger prison? Pu Yao asked a question that had long been in his mind. The Great Day Emo physique has some substance, the female warrior casually said. This boy has pretty good luck. You taught him to cultivate the consciousness, and he accidentally found a correct path to practicing the Great Day Emo physique. Pu Yao's expression suddenly became strange. What Great Day Emo physique? Who wanted to cultivate that thing? After struggling inside, he gritted his teeth and opened. Darren, I took him as my student. Oh, that's your freedom. You don't have to report it. The female warrior waved her hand and said unconcernedly. Thinking about his teacher, Pu Yao forced himself to say, Please, Darren, do not pass Emo skills to him. Little Pu, this is not good. The female warrior had a smiling face. Pu Yao's heart shook and he knew it was not good. However, he still decided to fight. Darren, please respect the order of arrival. TSK, little Pu. Weren't you the one that taught him the Great Day Emo physique? Yao arts, so feminine, such a good little man. How can he be wasted by you? The female warrior still had a smiling face. Pu Yao's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, the tendons in his forehead jumping. Little Pu, change to cultivating Emo skills too. I like men who are very masculine the most. The female warrior's eyes became intoxicated. Pu Yao finally could not suppress it. He jumped up and swore. Damned woman, you dare call me feminine? Come on, let's have a good fight. The female warrior instantly had an excited expression. With one move, she raised the enormous claw that was multiple times larger than her body. Great, after sleeping for 3,000 years, it's been so suffocating. I want to fight. The two figures fought fiercely in Zuomo's consciousness. Stupid woman, don't think I'm afraid of you. You are only the commander because I let you. Little Poo-Poo, my dear vice commander, you've never beat me. I was having mercy. In front of everyone, giving you face. Little Poo-Poo, you still like to boast as you ever did. Looking at the fact you guarded older sister for 3,000 years, sister will let you attack 3 times first. Guard you? My honored commander that thinks so highly about yourself. What I protected was the reputation of the Corps. If the corpse of the Corps commander landed in the hands of the enemy, it would be the shame of our Corps. Little Poo-Poo, your mouth is still as sharp as before. Corps commander, you are still this shameless. Qinghua Shui looked in shock at Xiao Emogu, who was swallowed in flame. Her hand couldn't help but shake once. Was this a backlash from the Yao art? The invisible power released by the flame spread in ripples of heat. Her heart shook and her expression changed slightly. Inside the flame, the strange blade seemed to lift slightly. Chapter 382. Midday blade strike. The temperature of the prison battlefield suddenly rose. The blackness of the void became dark red. Invisible waves of heat came from all directions and twisted everything in view. Qinghua Shui felt as though she was wading through molten lava and was going to burn at any moment. The blue flower held in her hands was like a candle flickering in the wind, likely to be extinguished at any moment. Xiao Emogu was covered in flame. On the other side was like a twisting ball of flame. She could not clearly see. What was most terrifying was that her consciousness was unable to find Xiao Emogu. Qinghua Shui was shocked and couldn't help but panic. The sky full of blue flowers showed signs of becoming uncontrolled. The connection between her and them became increasingly weak. Pia pia pia. The sounds that were so weak they were almost indiscernible landed in her ears, but were akin to lightning on a clear day. 7 blue flowers cut off their connection to her consciousness. Her complexion suddenly became white. From the day she first cultivated blue flower, these beautiful blue flowers were like her closest friends, and were connected with her in her mind. She played with them, told them her innermost thoughts. She had never encountered any problems on the complex Yao arts recorded on blue flower, because her friends would help her. It was the first time that she had encountered the blue flowers cutting their connections to her. Why was it like this? Qinghua Shui had a bewildered expression. She did not know what to do about this sudden change. Amidst her bewildered eyes, that strange straight blade that was shrouded in the fiery flame sliced from top to bottom. This blow was unusually slow, so slow that Qinghua Shui could see it clearly. When the strange blade started to move downwards, the surrounding flame seemed to have been pushed by an invisible power and quickly left the blade. It broke into countless tiny flames that shot off towards the sides. Qinghua Shui seemed to have a feeling that this blade had sliced a ball of flame into a rain of fire. The entire space seemed to be ignited in this moment. The bright flame spread through the entire space like a snowstorm of the winter. It was so hot that waves of heat which could melt steel rose and lifted up a sky full of fiery rain. The sky suddenly became bright, wind and fire joining together. The power of the fiery rain expanded. The wind and fire twisted and engulfed the blue flowers. The strange and cryptic blue flowers disappeared in the air like bubbles popping. With the destruction of each blue flower, Qinghua Shui's face became a fraction paler. She wavered. Poof! When the last blue flower was destroyed, Qinghua Shui's face was as pale as paper. The light inside the amber eyes disappeared. Everything in her vision quickly became blurry. At this moment, a deep voice could be heard through the roaring of flame and wind. Midday blade strike. The Yao and the Mo that were fighting fiercely suddenly separated and stopped. They raised their heads at the same time to look at the void above their head. Pu Yao's expression was uncertain. The female warrior had a joyous expression. Pu Yao suddenly spoke. Your entire life was ruined by that suit of armor. Are you going to ruin him as well? The joy on the female warrior's face stilled and gradually dissipated. She seemed to think of something. Pain floated on her face. She held the enormous claw and stood woodenly. The expression on her face continued to change, sometimes joyful, sometimes painful. Pu Yao did not speak, and only looked silently at her. Hot. So hot. Zhuo felt as though his entire body was burning. His blood, flesh, and bones were like dry timber that were being furiously swallowed by a crimson flame. His eyes were completely red, the color of red-hot steel. He did not know that a clear flame had appeared above his head. This clear flame was silent, but the outer flame had faint rainbow patterns. This flame quickly spread along Zhuo's body. The moment the flame appeared out of Zhuo's body, the wooden Ague suddenly raised her head, and a deep purple light lit up in the deepest part of the dull and unfocused eyes. Lil Fire, who had been sleeping in her arms, seemed to smell something delicious, and woke up from its dreams. I had originally thought Darren was dead. Pu Yao stared at the female warrior and slowly spoke. To swear my oath. To abide by my ceremony. An extremely scornful expression came onto Pu Yao's face. Something so inflexible and trite. It is a miracle that it managed to pass down. The female warrior stood silently. It was this thing. Pu Yao's voice suddenly became high and filled with fury. It ruined Darren's entire life. Ruined the entire core. Everyone was originally able to survive. The female warrior bit her lips, her black eyes filled with pain. Darren said right before death that she wanted me to guard it, so it will not land in the hands of Xiuzha. Pu Yao's tone was low. I consented. I stood guard for 3,000 years. It did not land in the hands of Xiuzha. I hated it, wanted to destroy it. I once thought the day that I managed to escape, I will throw this damn thing into the rivers of hell. The time in the Yao subduing tower was really arduous to get through. Pu Yao had a reminiscing expression. If I had not promised Darren, I would not have made it through. I could not destroy it, so I had to endure. Being punished by lightning daily was nothing. What is most terrifying is to have no one to talk to, so I started to talk to it. Later, I did not hate it anymore. It is an inflexible idiot. There is no meaning in hating an idiot. However, Darren. Pu Yao suddenly lifted his head and stared directly at the female warrior. Are you going to ruin Zhuo as well? The female warrior was silent. He is my student, Pu Yao said calmly. The black robe on his body seemed to flap in the wind, his black hair like countless snakes dancing. In the dark red bloody eye, the eerie red light slowly started to spin. His tone was as calm as usual. To follow Darren in the past, I did not complete my teacher's final wish. Darren, instead I fulfilled my promise to you. I cannot finish teacher's last wish, but I cannot let teacher's line of succession break in my hands. Zhuo is my student. Darren, if you are going to put this ball and chain on my student's body, please do so after stepping over my corpse. The cold voice landed in the sea of consciousness. Black flames came out of the ground and turned to curving snakes of fire that gathered from all directions below Pu Yao's feet. Ming Juzi suddenly raised his head, his pupils shrinking. He stared at the prison battlefield. Beside him, Su Wei's expression changed as well. Covered in the formation, the prison battlefield lit up with a dark red light. This patch of red light was massive and almost covered the entire prison battlefield. Ming Juzi and Su Wei exchanged a lot and found shock in each other's eyes. Such powerful fire Yao arts. Su Wei was frazzled. Due to the formations outside the prison battlefield, the presence that leaked out was not strong. However, the pure fire contained in this thread of presence made every spectator change their expression. Fire Yao art. Ming Juzi murmured soullessly. His expression was very strange, his eyes shocked and puzzled. He paid far more attention to Xiao Mogu than Su Wei did, and knew much more information than Su Wei. The strange wasteland beast chessboard, the strange Yao art problems, the strange Yao art cages, adding on fire Yao arts now. How many Yao arts did Xiao Mogu really know? He was so young, how had he cultivated? Everything that Ming Juzi thought was common knowledge seemed to be completely upended by this mystery person. Who was he? Yu Zizhou raised his head to look at the sky filled with red light in the prison battlefield. His expression became serious. He had regretted being late, and to not have been the first to challenge Xiao Mogu. Before today, Xiao Mogu was just a dancing clown in his eyes. If it was not for Miss Ji Li Yu, He definitely would not waste time on such a minor character. But such powerful Yao fire arts. He had just finished registering with Hong, and was at the edge of the prison battlefield. The pure fire Yao art presence spilling out of the prison battlefield shocked him. Hong, send one in. A deep voice came from inside the prison battlefield. The speaker seemed to be suppressing something. All right, Darren. Hong seemed to wake up from a dream, turning to Yu Jizhou and saying, Mister, you may enter. Yu focused his attention. He did not dare to slack off, his consciousness at full power as he stepped forward with a grave expression. The scenery in front of him changed. The surroundings were bright red as though he was submerged in molten metal. Invisible heat waves blew against him. His expression changed. Such strong fire Yao art. He had to channel his powers to withstand these terrifying heat waves. His expression became even more grave. As one of the Jade clan, he was not afraid of fire. However, he was forced to use his powers to just stay here up, so he recognized how powerful it was. Zhuo stared with blood-red eyes at Yu Zizhou in front of him. His entire body was inside a golden flame. The pain of burning tore at his nerves. He could clearly feel the pure flame slowly permeating his consciousness. His consciousness seemed to shun these flames. Yet the golden flames were domineering and forcibly permeated his consciousness thread by thread. What was this thing? He gritted his teeth and bore the pain. The rich and tyrannical power occupied his entire body, and the pain was like thousands of ants chewing on his body, especially his palms and back. Zhuo had to focus his attention on the enemy in front of him. This way, it seemed that the pain he felt would lessen. He gathered all the strength in his body, and the midday blade in his hand viciously struck at Yu Zizhou. Midday blade strike. The sky was full of wind and fire that howled as it shot at Yu Zizhou. Yu Zizhou's expression changed slightly. With a cold snort, his left leg shifted back slightly. His hands made a shape as they were holding a large ball, and drew a perfect circle with ease in front of his chest. If Su Wei and the others saw this scene, they would have exclaimed the ultimate defensive technique of Yu Zizhou. Interconnected jade rings. An ultimate move right at the start. Without time to think, Yu Zizhou instinctively used the strongest defensive Yao art he could do. 1 created 2. 2 created 4. In a flash, rings of light covered Yu Zizhou. Pew pew pew. The storm of fire hit the rings of light, and both were destroyed. Rains of fire continuously landed on the rings of light, and rings of light were continuously destroyed. But the number of light rings did not lessen. Instead they increased, and became more numerous. Zhuo felt there was an unstoppable flood inside his body that spread along his left hand, and was going to burst from his left palm. He did not even think before slamming his palm towards the thick rings of light. Chapter 383. You should die. This palm struck the rings directly. The day script on the center of Zhuo's palm suddenly lit up. A vast and scorching power burst forth from the center of his palm. This power was extremely strange. It did not blow away the rings of light. Instead, like a tiger reaching out with its head from the cage, it bit and held its prey. The sea of light rings were securely latched onto by Zhuo's left palm. The day script continuously released golden yellow light that corroded the rings of light. A golden boundary rippled through the rings of light as it moved towards the center of the barrier. Yu Zizhou's expression changed greatly. He felt a tyrannical presence corroding his interconnected jade rings at an astounding speed. What was this? It was the first time he had encountered such a strange Yao art. This domineering power spread so quickly it almost exceeded Yu Zizhou's imagination. He had just managed to gather all of his consciousness, and his vision already turned to a golden yellow ocean. Yu Zizhou had never thought he would ever be pushed to such a sorry state one day. No, such a hopeless situation. This was only the second move the other had used. The second move, and it forced him to such a state. A dancing clown. He suddenly thought of this phrase. A feeling of humiliation like never before instantly rushed every inch of his nerves. How could a person as proud as him be defeated in 2 moves by a person he thought of as a dancing clown? How could he? Yu Zizhou glared. The elegance and relaxed face was now unusually twisted. Deep pride was mixed with unprecedented humiliation. He was like a gambler that had lost it all, and went all in with his life. All of his consciousness and his strength was channeled into his arms. He held his arms as though he was embracing the oncoming golden light, and slowly pushed forward like he was pushing a mountain. His face trembled fiercely and showed signs of instability. Jade. Gritting through his teeth, Yu Zizhou slowly spoke while visibly trembling. Every part of his body was trembling. The two curved arms he held in front of his chest slowly moved forward amidst this shuddering. Every fraction he pushed forward, the vibrations in the space around him increased by a fraction. Born. Just as the born was squeezed from his mouth, the golden light had spread to the last ring of light in front of Yu Zizhou. The golden light collided with Yu Zizhou's arms without any finesse. Yu Zizhou's body froze and his pupils suddenly expanded. Pia. Yu Zizhou's palms popped. Pia. The wrists exploded. Pia. The forearms exploded. Pia pia pia. After a string of noises like popcorn popping, the explosion spread along Yu Zizhou's arms to his body. Yu Zizhou's eyes were enormously wide. He looked in disbelief as his body exploded inch by inch. An unwilling wail suddenly was stopped. There was a dazzling golden ball of light that covered Zuomo's left palm that was like a sun. He maintained his striking pose motionlessly. All the flames over his body suddenly burrowed into his body. The red light faded from his crimson eyes and revealed golden yellow pupils. The golden yellow pupils were indifferent like that of a deity gazing down on ants, but the expression of pain on his face did not fade but increased. The indifferent gaze contrasted with the pained and twisted expression, forming an extremely strange image. The midday blade in his right hand was trembling. The golden ball of light on the left palm dissipated, and the sun script at the center of the palm faded. Hong, let another one in. The hoarse and deep voice contained threats of insanity as it came out of the formation. What little Poo-Poo has said is very wise. The female warrior suddenly raised her head and looked smilingly at Pu Yao. She nodded heavily and said, "This stupid armor really shouldn't be passed down anymore." The gravestone shook fiercely as though it was very discontent with the female warrior's words. The roiling black clouds looked as they were going to burst out. "Shut up." The female warrior's expression cooled. She raised the enormous claw in one hand and heavily smashed it down on the gravestone. With a clang, the earth shook. The shaking gravestone froze. From the point it was smashed, a web of cracks snaked out. Crack whoosh, a pile of broken rock fell off the gravestone. The black clouds that had just came out of the gravestone seemed to be hit with a body paralysis curse, and froze in the air. Such a powerful blow. His presence almost at his peak, Pu Yao's eyelids jumped. Pia pia pia. The black flames that had burrowed under his feet suddenly exploded simultaneously, and he was covered by a burst of black smoke. Cough cough cough. Pu Yao's coughing passed out of the black smoke. When the black smoke dissipated, Pu Yao was singed and covered with ash. He looked with unfriendliness at the female warrior. The female warrior gave Pu Yao a flirtatious glance as though nothing had happened. She turned her face, and when she looked at the gravestone, her tone was cold. "Clean it up." The gravestone shook. Whoosh! The broken pieces that had broken off seemed to grow legs and climb into the place that had been smashed. Piece by piece, they went back to their original spot. In a blink, the gravestone seemed to be untouched again except for the web of cracks extending from the top of the gravestone. The power was just as terrifying as it had been in the past. Pu Yao glanced at the female warrior and sat down. There were too much to consider about everything that had happened today. Hadn't Darren died? How could she become alive again? Death could not be reversed. This had no connection to cultivation. Unless Darren did not die. If Darren had not died in the past, then there were too many possibilities in this. Golden Soul? That was very possible. So Darren hadn't died then. Wait a moment. Pu Yao's head was lowered. His bloody pupil unconsciously narrowed into icicles. Darren died in his arms. Even if it had been 3,000 years, he still remembered that scene clearly. He was familiar with Darren, her personality, her temper. He was familiar with everything. The Darren in front of him was so familiar as she was 3,000 years ago. But Darren had died. She had really died. There seemed to be a silent sigh in the cold pupil. The pain seemed to have been washed away by time, so faint there was almost no trace, but Pu Yao suddenly raised his head. Darren is already dead. The female warrior furrowed her brow and was slightly discontent. Pu Yao seemed to not see it, and said to himself in a light voice, Darren is dead, both her soul and body destroyed, there was nothing left. His right hand came out of its wide sleeve and spread its fingers, feeling the air rush past them. He looked directly at the female warrior and said calmly, I know it, Darren died. The blood-red pupil was so cold there was not a shred of warmth. He raised his hand, and a black flame jumped in his hand. His black hair started to dance again, and the silk-like black clothing moved despite the lack of wind. The entire sea of consciousness seemed to slow down. Gradually, only one rhythm could be heard, only one sound. Dong dong, dong dong, dong dong. The female warrior's expression changed slightly. Her eyes locked onto the thread of black Yao fire on Pu Yao's hands. The strange rhythm in the space was the exact same as the rhythmic flickering flame on Pu Yao's hand. The golden soul really is a good thing. It seems you've recovered a fair bit. Pu Yao's expression was indifferent. The bottomless crimson pupil slowly revolved, and a scornful smile that was as cold and sharp as a knife's edge suddenly jerked at the corner of his mouth. You also recovered your usual idiocy. The female warrior suddenly spoke, but the voice changed from the sweetness and flirtatiousness of just now and became as simple and wizened as an old person. How did you find out? Before the sound landed, the female warrior's body collapsed into fine black powder. The black dust danced and gathered in the air to turn into a ball of black smoke. Inside the black smoke, the figure of a male was discernible. You want me to tell you how idiotic you are? Ha! The scorn on Pu Yao's face grew. TSK 3,000 years, you finally showed your face, it really wasn't easy. Haven't you wanted to force me out all along? The male inside the black smoke glanced at the black fire on Pu Yao's hands. He said in a deep voice, I think we need to have a good discussion. Discussion. Pu Yao raised an eyebrow ambiguously. He took away the black fire in his hand, and said unconcernedly, Fine, discuss. Who are you? Gravestone armor, called protection. You can call me Wei. The black smoke covering his body disappeared, and revealed Wei's true appearance. He was wearing a body of black armor, and seemed to have great bearing. His brow was straight and his eyes bright. He seemed full of righteousness. He was not as old as his voice seemed, and he bowed towards Pu Yao respectfully. Wei. Oh, not a bad name. Pu Yao narrowed his eye. Due to the previous owner, your heart is filled with hatred towards me. I am able to understand this, Wei slowly said. His voice was calm and neutral. It had a power that reached straight into the heart. What she protected seemed to be idiocy to you, but her resolve to protect was the source of her power. Pu Yao smirked coldly. TSK so high-sounding. Wei's gaze looked into the distance as he was reminiscing on something. His voice became distant. Every soul has something they are willing to give their life for. His gaze came back and looked at Pu Yao. Isn't it also the same for you? Pu Yao still had a cold smirk. Don't spout these little pretenses in front of me. All right, you say. Wei did not argue, nodding and saying without hesitation. I say. Pu Yao narrowed his eye that was like a bloody red blade. He said lightly, I say you should die. Wei's expression changed greatly. His figure turned to rolls of black smoke and flew towards the gravestone. Whoosh! Black flames sprouted from under the gravestone and completely enveloped the gravestone. Wei hurriedly stopped his body. He seemed to be extremely wary of this kind of black flame. You should die. Pu Yao stalked towards Pu Yao, a jumping flame being held in the air above his hand. The beautiful and dark face was filled with murderousness. His voice so cold there was no thread of warmth. For pretending to be her, you should die. Pu, you cannot kill me. Wei stared at Pu Yao with a calm expression. I know. The murderousness on Pu Yao's face suddenly disappeared and he said with a strange and dark smile. However, after 3,000 years, how can I not have spent any of my thoughts on you? Wei's expression really changed this time. A dazzling light lit up on Pu Yao's hands and illuminated the entire sea of consciousness. Chapter 308. New tenant Mo seemed to have an extremely long dream, a dream of red and gold. A world full of flame, dazzling, golden light filled the entire dream. But he could not remember what happened. Opening his eyes, Pia, a warm and soft bubble-like thing smashed into his embrace. Mo lowered his head. He saw a golden-yellow body frolicking in his arms. This was Lil Fire? Mo's expression instantly became slightly strange. He gripped the little golden guy and raised it up. Lil Fire seemed to be recalling a certain painful memory. Its soft body suddenly froze. A moment later, it chirped weakly and looked at Mo. It really was Lil Fire. Mo's gaze relaxed, and then he became curious. How did this guy become like this? The body which had originally been red was now golden red, and his figure had shrunk a few fractions. How did you become this? Mo asked curiously. Lil Fire hurriedly chirped, but Mo couldn't understand one sound at all. Mo ignored it and squeezed around as he muttered, "Forgot where the spot is." The chirping suddenly stopped. Pew! A golden red flame shot out of Lil Fire's body. Lil Fire's expression was full of sorrow. "Ha, found it. Ooh, it's good that you are normal. Mo relaxed his grip. When Lil Fire left the demonic hands, it shot into Ague's embrace and chirped sorrowfully as it rolled in search of comfort. Ague was still just as usual. Mo sighed inside. He didn't know when they would reach Cloud Sigia. He walked next to Ague and inspected Ague's body again. An uncontrollable expression of joy appeared on his face. The strange purple light seemed to have grown stronger. Even though he did not know what the purple light was, Mo knew it was of great benefit to Ague. The first time he had encountered an unconscious Ague, he had discovered the attributes of this purple energy. The purple energy showed signs of growth. This was a good thing. Mo's mood instantly became much lighter. Oh, what should he be doing right now? Mo furrowed his brow. He felt slightly strange. How could he not have anything to do? Wait. That wasn't right. His gaze focused. He remembered the battle stage at Wasteland Beast chessboard. The memories were like a flood that burst through the dam. He thought of more and more matters. That was right. Wasteland Beast chessboard stage. But why couldn't he remember what happened? What had happened? His expression became grave. He knew that something had definitely happened, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not recall anything. After thinking for a few moments, he entered the Sea of Consciousness. Puyao definitely would know. Entering the Sea of Consciousness, Mo couldn't help but make a sound of surprise. The Sea of Consciousness seemed to have changed. However, he was not in the mood to examine the Sea of Consciousness at this time. He sprinted directly in the direction of Puyao's location. Mo stopped his feet and gaped as he looked at Puyao. There was another person standing beside Puyao. After gaping for a moment, Mo suddenly became enraged. He shot forward a step, pointed at Puyao and started to scold. "You lazy glutton, G tolerated you even though you don't pay rent. Now you bring another person in? You really think of GE's Sea of Consciousness as a free residence? Didn't even inform me. You really think this is your home?" Puyao, who had been full of pride, suddenly froze. Do you know whose territory this is? This is GE's Sea of Consciousness. You're great. You don't even have one piece of jingsher, and you have your nose pointing at the sky all day? Go found you an eyesore a long time ago. You really think you are a benefit to GE? Humph. Now you even took a subordinate in? He. Little poo-poo, you disappoint GE greatly. Thinking back to the past at Wukong Mountain, even with that powerful formation from the paper crane woman, GE's heart was like granite and did not waver at all. You meet just one male beauty, and you surrendered. Do you know why you are an old antique, but GE is the little MOG that dominates the word? Let me tell you, there is a difference between people and Yao. Puyao was completely stunned by Mo's barrage of scolding. After Mo finished ranting, he felt extremely comfortable and very satisfied, especially when he saw Puyao's stupefaction. A feeling of victory rose. A cold snort coming out of his nose. He raised his face and glanced at the male beside Puyao. "Who are you?" "I am Wei, greetings to you." The other stood and bowed to Mo. Wei's motions were relaxed and his expression serious. It caused people to feel his sincerity. However, Zuo did not fall for this. He crisply shook his head. Wei, never heard of you. Not waiting for Wei to speak, he continued. I don't care where you came from. But let's talk about the problem of rent. Very rational. Please continue. Wei did not argue and cleanly nodded. Ha. I like brisk people. Zuo smiled. Very simple and to the point. Ooh, you can use all kinds of valuable things as rent. Like spells, Yao arts, Jingshi, rare materials, they all work. Wei said, I have a set of Diana Xiao Attainment Golden Body. Is this acceptable? Attainment Golden Body? Diana Xiao? Zuo thought and then said, Don't use trash to fool me. You can test it out first. Wei handed over a ball of light with a calm expression. Zuo showed a satisfied expression. This guy really knew how to get with the program. Taking in the ball of light, a set of spells flowed like water across his mind. After musing over it, he couldn't help but show an abnormal expression. A 6th grade spell. What was the origin of this guy? A 6th grade spell just to start? Zuo refocused and raised his eyebrows. Oh, not bad. This can be your yearly rent. He then twisted his mouth at Pu Yao. Pu, learn from this. Look how proactive this person is. Your praise is Wei's honor. Wei bowed towards Zuo. Zuo did not even look at Pu Yao's pot-black face, and left with bravado. Pu Yao's expression was unfriendly. The shadowed bloody pupil stared with coldness at Wei. Wei calmly met Pu Yao's gaze. As per our agreement, I did not pass him a MO skill. Remember your situation. Do not try to infuriate me. Pu Yao's bloody pupil narrowed as he coldly spoke. I've sealed your wretched steel. I cannot destroy it, he. But if you anger me, you can think of the consequences. You do not need to threaten me. Wei was not afraid. I've never betrayed my oath. TSK, so honorable. So honorable that you had to pretend to be Darren? The oath is will. Actions that do not betray the will are weapons. There is no right or wrong. Excuses. My will. Zuo's mood was even better now that he received a 6th grade spell. He had guessed Wei's identity at the start because he noticed the light of the seal on the gravestone. Even though Pu Yao was usually very arrogant, he could not casually bring other souls into Zuo's sea of consciousness. In the past, even Pu Yao had caused a great disturbance when he had entered the sea of consciousness. How could another person arrive in the sea of consciousness without Zuo detecting it? Even more, he noticed that Pu Yao's attitude towards Wei was unfriendly, but there were no further actions. Thinking about the ancient voice back when Pu Yao had entered his sea of consciousness, the answer was obvious. He had originally planned on squeezing out a small sum, but Wei's offering was much more than he had imagined. A 6th grade spell to start with, this was very profitable. Zuo was filled with smugness. Even though Attainment Golden Body was a Diana Xiao spell, but it still held great value as a reference for him. Also, he had a Diana Xiao subordinate. Wasn't Zhongru just lacking a good Diana Xiao spell? Zhongru was from an unorthodox background, but he was still able to form an abnhina. If this 6th grade Diana Xiao spell was added, he could definitely go up another level. In a good mood, Zuo did not forget what was most urgent at this moment. There wasn't enough time to carefully inspect the good thing in his hand. He hurried towards the Wasteland Beast chessboard. What had happened with the stage in the prison battlefield? He was very curious and bewildered. What had happened? Why could he not remember anything at all? He had been too worked up just now and forgotten to ask Pu Yao. However, since he was going to the Wasteland Beast chessboard, it would be the same if he asked Nan Yu and Song Zhe. They would definitely know. When Zuo came to the prison battlefield, he couldn't help but pause. The prison battlefield was extremely unpopulated with only a few figures about. Even though he did not remember what happened, but he clearly remembered the crowds of Yao that had surrounded the prison battlefield that day. His heart suddenly jumped. Had he gone out of business? When the figures that were wandering around the prison battlefield saw Zuo, all of their expressions changed. They looked as though they were seeing a ghost. Their gazes were filled with terror and fear. Zuo was puzzled. What was with this group of people? Did he have something frightening on his body? It shouldn't be so. He remembered that these people in the past had looked at him as though they were drooling dogs seeing meat buns. Why was it that now they looked as though they were mice that had seen a cat? Was it something had happened that day? The bewilderment inside grew. He wanted to call a Yao and ask for clarification. But when this Yao saw Zhuo reach out, his face suddenly paled, his gaze unfocused, and he disappeared in a flash of white light. This. Zhuo was stunned where he stood. He had never thought there would be a day that he could frighten a Yao straight out of the 10-finger prison. A moment later he refocused. Moving his feet, he walked into the prison battlefield. The formations on the outside had not changed compared to the past day. It was only when he went into the stage area that he saw Songzhe. In the enormous stage age, Songzhe sat alone. Darren. Songzhe saw Zhuo and joyfully ran over. Oh, he made a sound in response. He then looked at the surroundings and asked with a frown. What happened here? Where's Nanyu? Nanyu went to cultivate. We've been taking turns waiting for Darren. Songzhe saw Zhuo's expression was unfriendly and hurriedly said, This place. At this moment he could not find the words to describe and was stuck. We lost? Zhuo asked. Songzhe swallowed and shook his head. No. Then why haven't people come? Zhuo asked curiously. Darren, you do not remember? Songzhe carefully asked. Don't remember. Zhuo shook his head. I was just going to ask you what happened that day. The sound of Songzhe swallowing became louder. His gaze was full of respect, and his expression even had threads of terror. That day, Darren successively killed 26 Yao. As a result, all the Yao that registered ran away in fear. Thinking about the scene that day, Songzhe's body uncontrollably shook. Successively killed 26 Yao. Zhuo was stunned. Chapter 385. The Fame of a Brute. Yes, Darren. Songzhe's respectful voice carried great passion. Before, when Zhuo had decided to set up the battle stage, he had felt it was absurd. But now, in his mind, Darren was like a deity, undefeated and with immeasurable power. He had a feeling that Darren, even being so young, would definitely leave his name in the annals of Yao history. This feeling was so strong that he had even spoke of it to the clan elders in the hopes that they could provide more aid to Darren. In the beginning the clan elders did not believe him, but after the Yao art recordings started appearing, they subdued the doubts of the elders. These Yao art recordings were made by those that had challenged Xiao Mo and had recorded the entire process of their battles with Xiao Mo 26 challengers, and there were 9 Yao art recordings that had been publicized. Of the 26 challengers, the most famous was Yu Zizhou, the most accomplished genius of the Jade clan's new generation. He once had the chance to enter the Elders' Council of the Genius Alliance. However, in order to concentrate on cultivation, he had refused Ming Yuye's invitation. The Jade clan was not a large one, but it had a long history that stretched back into the prehistoric era. When Yu Zizhou appeared on the Wasteland Beast chessboard prison battlefield, everyone had thought that the battle had lost meaning. No Yao in the Yao world did not know that Yu Zizhou was pursuing Ji Liu. He was also publicly recognized as the one most likely to receive Ji Liu's favor. But no one had thought that Xiao Mo was so powerful he defeated Yu Zizhou in an instant. What happened after that seemed to challenge the limits of the spectators' imaginations. Xiao Mo was like a terrifying monster that did not know exhaustion. Any enemy standing in front of him would be crushed in an instant. One person, then another, and another. Other than the first mysterious challenger, no challenger was able to resist for 5 breaths. Not even Yu Zizhou. Among them were genius youths like Yu Zizhou, those that were experienced in death, and there were even 2 combat Yao from the military. There were also 5 supervisors from the Genius Alliance. Such a grand lineup. It was possible to make a powerful offensive Yao troop at the front lines. However, in front of Xiao Mo, they were cut up and diced like vegetables. In the 3rd prison and above, there was a rumor that was going around. All the Yao that failed in their challenge, including Yu Zizhou, had serious consciousness wounds, and they had to seek healing. There were a few that had even more terrible situations. Other than wounds, this battle had left a great shadow in their hearts. It was possible that they would not progress anymore in their life. Xiao Mo became famed after this battle. His fame as a brute was unparalleled at this time. Have you found what Yao art this is? Su Wei crowded over and asked curiously. Ming Juzi shook his head. No. His gaze once again landed on Xiao Mo inside the Yao recording art, and he was extremely puzzled. The body was covered in flame, the golden yellow light, the full suit of armor, a shield on the left and a blade on the right, the transparent golden wings, the golden claws. This extremely strange attire was recorded in all 9 Yao recording arts. What caused the greatest fear were those golden eyes made of crimson flame. They were so cold, like there was no emotion. This indifference was the antithesis to his savageness and bloodthirstiness in combat. He was like a wild beast that only knew how to kill. All of the enemies were like weak prey, and were torn into pieces under his sharp claws. Even you were not able to find anything? Su Wei really was surprised this time. Ming Juzi's power was not enough to bring him fame, but in terms of breadth of knowledge, few could trump over him. He was familiar with all kinds of secret histories and information that were not widely known. He even was well studied in the Yao history before the 1,000-Year War. Ming Juzi did not move his gaze away. He stared at the Yao art recording. A moment later he spoke. I have a feeling this may not be a Yao art. Not a Yao art? Su Wei paused. He then shook his head like a rattle drum. Impossible? If it is not a Yao art, what is it? Ming Juzi was silent for a moment. It looks a bit like a Mo skill. Mo skill. Su Wei's gaze instantly became strange. Brother, you have a fever. Mo skill? Mo skill appearing in the 10-finger prison? Other than Yao arts, there is nothing else that can appear in the 10-finger prison. I don't know either. Ming Juzi spread his hands. But I really feel it does not look like a Yao art. Su Wei said in a deep voice. Don't be impatient. We can slowly search. There is definitely someone who will recognize it. We can only do this. Ming Juzi could only nod. He suddenly thought of something, and said seriously, don't involve yourself in this mess. This Xiao Mo is very savage. No, Su Wei said without hesitation. I don't want to find death. This guy can be seen to be one that treats Yao lives like grass. In his hands, if it is not death, it is serious injury. A bloodthirsty murderer. This guy really is a bloodthirsty murderer. Look at the 2 people from the military. Didn't they end up killed with a stroke? The 2 Yao did not have good expressions. They repeated watch the 9 Yao art recordings. That brute that was like a demonic god was deeply imprinted in their minds. How can the great day Mo physique appear in the 10-finger prison? Pu Yao stared at Wei and asked. This was a question that had lingered in his mind. Wei sat with his legs crossed, arms against his legs, his hands dangling off his knees. His gaze was like the sea. The great day Mo physique is an extremely rare Mo physique. Only a few know its origins. Origins? Pu Yao raised his eyelid. I have never heard that Mo physiques had origins. Wei smiled and did not refute. He only said, in prehistoric times, there were no divisions between Xiuzha, Yao and Mo. The cultivation at that time was not as complex as it was now. Actually, the cultivators of that time cultivated everything. The cultivation method of that time was very heterogeneous, varied. Mo physiques existed very early on, but not many would know that the creator of the Mo physique cultivation method, according to today's categories, was more like Yao. You say that Mo physiques are actually created by a Yao? Pu Yao seemed to have heard the best joke. Yes. Wei did not argue and said, when he found at that time the technique he was cultivating was unsupportable without a powerful body, he had to spend large amounts of time on body cultivation. He scorned the mainstream body cultivation methods of that time for being too slow, so he created the Mo physique cultivation method. Pu Yao did not speak. He realized this fake gentleman was not speaking nonsense. The Mo physique cultivation method was really efficient, but the process of cultivation was truly dangerous. Pu Yao had great breadth of knowledge. He knew very well that there were all kinds of divisions in history. It looked as though it was due to chance, but under the surface, one would find that there were all kinds of inevitable occurrences. There were historical requirements to the developments. At the time, he was not the only one developing a Mo physique cultivation method, but his results were the most obvious. The Great Day Mo Physique was his greatest work. The Mo Physiques did not have such great variety as they do now, and the Great Day Mo Physique was the peak of all Mo Physiques at that time. What this elder was most skilled in was still Yao arts, so in developing the cultivation method of the Great Day Mo Physique, he drew inspiration from Yao arts. The Great Day Mo Physique is the Mo Physique that most closely resembles Yao arts. In today's terms, the Great Day Mo Physique emphasizes the use of spiritual power. Wei continued on, his presence forming naturally. Pu Yao did not answer. He pondered with his head down and then said with realization, "So that's why." He was a genius to start with, a weirdo with the name of the Encyclopedia of Yao Arts. After continuous battle, the number of spells and Mo skills that he had won and collected could not be counted. He was very knowledgeable. There were parts he did not understand before, but now that Wei spoke a bit about it, it was enough for him to clearly see the crux of the matter. The guy that thought of this method is really a genius. Pu Yao praised. He seemed to have a new idea and said to himself, "Maybe this can be tried out?" Wei's expression was calm, but a shiver flashed through his mind. Being enemies with Pu Yao, he directly felt the immeasurable nature of this guy. Pu Yao's mind was sharp, sensitive, reacted extremely quickly, vicious and decisive, especially the insanity that came from his bones, that insanity that would destroy everything to reach his goal. Such a terrifying enemy. A wave rippled in Wei's heart, but he quickly resumed calmness. He looked openly at Pu Yao without any trembling in his gaze. The two had their own thoughts and it became silent. Mo dazedly looked at Song Zhe and gaped for a long moment. Successively killed 26 Yao? He was joking. How could he be so ferocious? He was clear how much he was worth. Even though he didn't know names of the people that fell under his blade, but military combat Yao, high-level supervisors of the Genius Alliance, and guys that could enter the Elder Council of the Genius Alliance. Hearing Song Zhe heatedly narrate his results with awe, Mo felt like he was being told a story. What Yao world joke? That was the words that were echoing inside his mind the most, but when he saw Song Zhe's face, which was so excited his lips were trembling, he felt that it was not pretense. Had he really done it? Mo was full of suspicion, and it was like he was listening to a fairy tale. Okay, maybe it really was he that did it. Mo said to himself. Oh, let's focus on something more practical. He raised his head and asked, "How much did we make?" Song Zhe, that had been going on heatedly, suddenly choked. His expression froze. In an instant, the giant figure of Darren in his mind wavered. He seemed to feel his breath was being choked at his throat. Seeing Song Zhe's expression, Mo instantly panicked. Did we lose money? Song Zhe almost collapsed. Why? In the legends, shouldn't those great heroes treat gold like dirt? The great battle god statue in Song Zhe's mind collapsed. Duh. Darren, we earned 30 million. Song Zhe felt like he was a server reporting to the manager of the store. This much? Mo's eyes suddenly widened and lit up. All the suspicions in his heart instantly dissipated in front of true income. How could the number of Yao he defeated be as tangible as how much he made? Mo wanted to roar with laughter. Chapter 386, Song Lin. Darren, this is my cousin, Song Lin. He has been to the third prison before. If Darren has any questions you can ask him, Song Zhe said respectfully. There was a male Yao standing next to him with features similar to Song Zhe, but he looked slightly worn down. Song Lin also followed with a bow to Mo. His eyes were filled with respect and awe. In the last few days, the brutish reputation of this mysterious Darren had spread everywhere. Mo looked at him, and then suddenly made a sound of surprise. You were wounded? Yes, Darren, Song Lin said in a hoarse voice. His voice was drier than Song Zhe and his gaze dim. In the past, he had been the most talented of the younger generation of the sect. Young, and he was able to enter the third prison. He got into a conflict with someone else in the third prison once, and was wounded in combat that resulted long-lasting damage to his consciousness. He had not expected the other's imprint to be extremely malicious. The elders of the sect tried all they could but had no solutions. Song Zhe had called him over this time, because Mo had asked about the Yao market bounties. Of the younger generation of the clan, only Tsonglin had gone to the third prison. Let's heal you first and then talk. Zhuo beckoned with his hand at Songlin. Come over. Songlin stilled. Songze reacted first, and said in a joyful and trembling voice, Darren, can you heal this kind of wound? He could not be blamed for his loss of composure. The glory of the Grey Clan had long faded, and the Grey Clan was continuously declining. The greatest problem the Grey Clan faced was that they had no able successors. Songlin had once been the hope of the Grey Clan. In order to heal his wound, the clan had spent great sums. Songze was the youth with the greatest talent next to Songlin. But if it was not for the Grey Scar art, it probably would take him far more time to pass the first prison. If Songlin's wound could be healed, that meant the Grey Clan would have an able assistance. So when Songze heard that Zhuo was able to heal Songlin's wounds, his state could be described as overjoyed. Songlin was completely stunned, his mind blank. He dumbly walked in front of Zhuo relax. Just like normal, Zhuo's spiritual power was like nimble tentacles that connected to Songlin's consciousness. The scenery in front of him changed. He seemed to be situated in a patch of gray and blue mist that moved relentlessly. It was possible to see dozens of mist streams that slowly flowed along specific paths. Zhuo was shocked. The scene in front of him was so clear it was slightly outrageous. His consciousness had improved again. Other than joy, Zhuo felt slightly puzzled. The improvement of his consciousness seemed too fast recently. It seemed to improve at a rate visible to the naked eye. He started to worry. Would this rate of increase have any problems? He needed to find a time to ask Puyao. Suppressing the worry and shock inside, Zhuo started to seriously inspect Songlin's consciousness. He quickly found the cause of the problem. These blue streams were flowing slowly, too slowly. He closed his eyes, and the scenery inside the blue mist continuously appeared in front of him. The slender flows were like rivers and streams. Some were thick and others extremely thin. They crisscrossed and did not interfere in certain places. Zhuo seemed to understand. These slender flows were like the ling channels inside people's bodies and supported all of the consciousness. At a place where the blue slender flows intersected was a blood-colored vine covered in thorns. This was it. Zhuo narrowed his eyes. He was not skilled in healing and only understood a bit after repeatedly inspecting a Gui's body. Vitality, this intangible and ethereal substance, was something he could measure. From the beginning using the little art of cloud and rain, to inspecting a Gui's body, he had gained a direct impression. In the prison-breaking battle of vast water clear skies, facing the vast water breath filled with vitality, he had a new understanding of vitality. Seeing Songlin today, he detected that Songlin's vitality was not flowing smoothly, so he had asked. He examined it for a while longer, and confirmed that the red thorny vine was the culprit that disrupted the flow of the blue streams. He did not hesitate and started to deconstruct it. In his eyes, the thorny vine was completely made from Yao arts. When he touched the red thorny vine, Zhuo couldn't help but shiver. An excited expression quickly came over. The construction of the red thorny vine was a new structure he had never seen before. It was also more complex than the Yao arts which appeared in the Wasteland Beast chessboard. From when they entered vast water clear skies, Puyao had continuously emphasized deconstruction to Zhuo. How many Yao arts had Zhuo deconstructed up until now? He himself could not remember it, but deconstructing Yao arts almost had become a kind of instinct. When he saw a completely novel and complex Yao art, he had a twinge of excitement like a gourmand that saw delicious food. Without hesitating, Zhuo started to deconstruct it. Zhuo quickly encountered a blockage, but this did not discourage him. It was the opposite, and his fighting spirit was stimulated. He was like a battle-seeking warrior who encountered an opponent of similar skill. It had been so long since he had encountered such a powerful Yao art. Zhuo was excited. This really was a complex Yao art problem. Zhuo's mind revolved quickly. His focus narrowed. The lights of all kinds of little Yao arts continuously flashed on his hands. He was truly familiar with the set of little Yao arts now, and could confidently use them without any struggle. It was natural, like eating and drinking. When an idea formed in his mind, the little Yao art on his hand would have formed as well. Song Lin's expression continuously changed, sometimes pained and sometimes relaxed. Song Zhe did not dare to relax and silently informed the elders of the clan. To the Grey Clan, this was really an important matter. A moment later, 6 wizened-looking Grey Clan elders appeared next to Song Zhe. "How is the situation?" the chief elder asked in a deep voice. His gaze landed on Song Lin, and did not shift away. From the lights that were flashing on Song Lin's body, it was clear the other was undergoing healing. "It's been going for 2 hours, Song Zhe hurriedly replied. The elders instantly had serious expression. They had all tried to heal Song Lin before, but in the end, they were ineffective. The Yao art imprint inside Song Lin was not strong, but was extremely hardy. No matter which method they used, they could not destroy it. Without needing to ask, the elders encircled Mo and Song Lin and shielded in the middle, preventing others from disturbing them and affecting the healing. Looking at Song Lin's pale and weary face, Chief Elder's heart couldn't help but hurt. He and the other elders worked to support the Grey Clan, but they were already in the last stages of their life. But watching as they aged day by day, and there was no successor from the descendants of the clan, the urgency they felt could be imagined. The Grey Clan had declined, but they possessed the Golden Tree, so they had barely managed to survive until now. The reason the Grey Clan could protect the Golden Tree was that the elders were strong. Each of them was not individually strong, but they were united. Others did not dare to easily provoke them. But if they were no longer there, the Golden Tree would end up being fatal to the Grey Clan. The appearance of the Grey Scar art undoubtedly filled the elders with hope of the future again. If Song Lin could recover, then their last worry would disappear. With Song Lin's talent, his cultivation would definitely skyrocket if he cultivated Grey Scar art. The lights on Song Lin's body suddenly flashed rapidly. This change caused the expressions of the elders to deepen. They knew this was the most crucial moment. Pia. An abnormally crisp sound suddenly came out of Song Lin's body. Chief Elder stilled and then his eyes lit up. He could not control himself from showing an overjoyed expression. The other elders quickly reacted, all of them with joy on their face. Song Lin opened his eyes. There was another light in that pair of dim eyes. Mo did not move. He was like a statue of wood. Seeing the situation, the other elders did not dare to slack off. They persisted in shielding Mo. A long while later, Mo slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a long breath. Such a strange Yao art. Seeing Mo open his eyes, Song Lin forcibly suppressed the excitement inside, and made a deep bow towards Mo. Song Lin cannot repay Darren's great boon of rebirth. But whatever Darren orders, Song Lin will do his best to accomplish. The chief elder just wanted to stop him, and hadn't expected that he would be too late. He couldn't help but sigh inside, as expected of a young person. With these words, it was akin to putting the future of the Grey Clan into the hands of Xiao Mo Ge. Of the young people of the clan, the most promising successor to the position of clan leader were Song Zhe and Song Lin. But he could see the attitudes of these two towards Xiao Mo Ge. But Chief Elder altered his way of thinking. This was not a terrible thing. If the Grey Clan had the aid of such a powerful expert in the future, at least, they did not have to worry about others targeting the Golden Tree. Thinking about this, he stepped forward and bowed to Mo. This old man is the chief elder of the Grey Clan. Greetings to the honored Xiao Mo Ge. The boon that Sir has given us is something all of the Grey Clan is grateful for. This is just a small token. Sire, please accept it. The other elders saw the 2 golden souls in the chief elder's hand, and couldn't not stop their disbelieving expression. The production of golden souls was very low. Last time to exchange for the Grey Scar art, they had paid 10 golden souls. What was left in the clan could be counted on the fingers. They had not expected the chief elder to give out 2 golden souls in their first meeting. However, they all know that the chief elder usually had deep insight and carefully considered his actions. They were puzzled, but no one spoke in opposition. They simultaneously bowed towards Mo. Please accept it. Mo was not courteous and took the golden souls. He said that he wanted to ponder what he had learned today. The elders were all very intelligent and hurriedly bid farewell. A cold light flashed past Mo's eyes. He sat down cross-legged on the ground to recover his spiritual power. Moments later, a figure appeared in the distance. Zhuo detected it. He opened his eyes and stood up. Just now, when he had succeeded in deconstructing the Yao art imprint inside Songlin's body, at the moment the blood-colored thorny vine turned to dust, he received a challenge. The Yao that had left the Yao art imprint in Songlin had challenged him. This was a letter delivered in an arrogant tone and filled with unconcealed threats. The other had detected that Zhuo was deconstructing his Yao art imprint. He could not bear it and wanted to see who was stronger with Zhuo. If this was a usual time, Zhuo would definitely ignore the challenge, but today he had a different idea. This kind of complex and weird Yao art had many unique places. Zhuo might have deconstructed the Yao art imprint on Songlin, but there were still many places he did not understand. The other's challenge was like a fat sheep that was being delivered to his mouth. A starving Zhuo unhesitatingly accepted it. The blood-colored thorny vine's Yao art was very interesting. Zhuo was thoughtful. Chapter 387. Ruhe. The desolate flat slope was an extremely barren place. Weeds were growing everywhere and withered, gravely earth covered the land. No faction had any interest in such a poor and barren place. However, the South Sky Wisteria clan lived here. Just like the many times before, Nanyu's figure flashed past. Because there were no plentiful water sources nearby, and the air was dry. This kind of environment was not suited to their survival. The Wisteria clan liked to live in places with dense forests, shade, and plenty of water. But places like those, even if they had no valuable resources, were everyone's targets. The Wisteria clan, which only had the old, the children, and the crippled, what offensive power did they have? Looking at the piles of pebbles that flashed by below, Nanyu's mood was dour. She resolved inside that she had to make a breakthrough as early as possible to increase her Yao designation. If she could increase her Yao designation, she could take her clansmen into the city to live. The environment inside the cities was much better than in the wilderness. Thinking of the South Sky arrow art she was cultivating, she was full of confidence in the future. With her present improvement speed, it would not be long before she could receive a satisfactory Yao designation level. Ayu has come back. Ayu has come back. The clanspeople saw Nanyu and were very excited. Nanyu was the most outstanding young Yao of the Wisteria clan, and the hope of the clan. If it was not for the fact that she was so young, the clan leader would have passed the position on to her. In the younger generation, she was the undoubted big sister. When she arrived, everyone crowded over. Nanyu showed a smile. Is everyone fine? Great. Ayu, don't worry about us. Yes, big sister Ayu, we've been working hard on our cultivation. Everyone talked over each other, listening to the clanspeople speak of what had happened in this past while. Nanyu's heart was filled with warmth. She took out a large pile of daily essentials from her date seed bracelet. This was bought using the money she earned outside of her time spent cultivating. We really troubled Ayu. The elders of the clan sigh. Their turbid eyes were filled with deep guilt. The entire clan was almost supported entirely by Ayu right now. It is my duty. Nanyu smiled and comforted. It is a kind of cultivation. If uncles need something, tell me. When she had been little, her parents had died. It was these elders that had raised her. This situation was very common in the clan. Right now, the entire clan was 11 people. Other than the 2 elders, the rest were all children. They had survived only due to the toil and farming of these elders. It was this kind of hardship and poverty that caused the entire clan to become unusually united. The elders of the clan had low cultivation. They did not have any other skill to earn money. They could only plant some basic grains in this patch of pebbly land and barely satisfy their hunger. After talking about daily life with the elders, she stood, patted her hands and gathered all the children. How has everyone cultivated? The children squealed and talked. Nanyu patiently inspected them one by one. She quickly had a happy expression. 3 children were not far from igniting their starfire and entering the stage of starfire where they would be able to form vine arrows, giving them basic offensive abilities. All of this was due to the South Sky arrow art. South Sky arrow art was really the inherited Yao art of the South Sky Wisteria clan. It seemed to be custom-made for them, and was the best suited for them to cultivate. She praised the children that had improved the quickest, and patiently explained the problems that they encountered in their cultivation. However, she did not teach them the attacking Yao arts of South Sky Arrow art, but taught them little Yao arts. She took Zhuomo's entire set of teachings and transferred it to them over directly. What Darren said was definitely correct. Looking at the focused little faces, Nanyu was full of anticipation towards the future. Mo Ruo's expression was dark. Just now, he had felt the Yao art imprint that he had put in Songlin had been destroyed. Who was this person who had no eyes? Who dared to meddle in matters not of his concern? Looking for death. He showed a bloodthirsty smile. Hee, it had been very long since he met someone worth fighting. It was good to have something to do today. He had also recently had a breakthrough, and was at the time where his confidence was at its peak. A person who did not have eyes coming up to him. Was there anything better than this? My axe is hungering, and wants to drink fresh blood. It was a pity that this was the 10-finger prison, and there was no way to taste blood. He regretfully smacked his lips. He had a full and bristly beard. His eyes were deep-set and a strange deep red. The slightly hooked nose made him seem sly. When he flew, it was like a blazing thread of fire. He had no intention of concealment. His attitude was extremely arrogant and proud. The Yao he encountered along the way all changed expression when they saw this thread of fire, and moved aside in panic. Mo Ruo's infamy was known by everyone in this area. A free and smug laugh came from inside the fire thread. With the sound of the fire crackling as it burned, it spread into the surroundings. Inside the fierce fire, Mo Ruo narrowed his eyes. He wondered, what would the other's face look like when they saw him? He had seen too many guys who thought they were experts get ashen expressions when they saw him. That was way too amusing. Every time it happened, he would find it amusing. He was like a cat playing with the mice under his claw. This kind of life was so wonderful. He greedily sighed. How would he torment that unfortunate person later? Oh, use the Yao art he had just comprehended? This idea wasn't bad. A ball of fierce fire crackled as it flashed past at astounding speed. Entering the first prison, he quickly found the traces of the other. If ever his Yao art imprint was destroyed, it would release an extremely weak imprint. This imprint would not do any damage, but it could guide him to find the other. No one had ever escaped untouched if they met him. Never. Without needing much effort, he found the other. Looking from the distance, it was a lone figure. Mo Ruo suddenly became excited. Thinking how the other would desire death in front of his Yao art, he felt the blood inside heat up. It would be such a wonderful feeling. He unhesitatingly sped up. This figure became closer and clearer. The other showed no intentions of fleeing. Wait, he seemed to be waiting. Suddenly, the figure raised its head and looked over. Mo Ruo sensed something unusual. The distance between them decreased. The other's appearance became clearer. Why did he find this guy somewhat familiar? Had they interacted before? Mo Ruo was slightly puzzled. He frowned, and thought back where he had seen this guy before. He did not decrease his speed. Surrounded by fire, Mo Ruo charged straight towards Mo. When he was about 3 zhang from the other, a name suddenly jumped into Mo Ruo's mind. His face instantly became white. That pair of bloody red eyes filled with viciousness and killing intent turned instantly into terror that reached his bones. Xiaomogu. He was Xiaomogu. Mo Ruo's heart seemed to be gripped tightly by an invisible hand without any warning. The sudden feeling of suffocation made his entire body soften. In a moment his mind was blank and his eyes lost focus. The blow caused by this name almost destroyed his mental defenses. Brute. This was a true brute. A heartless brute that killed 26 Yao successively. A truly lawless brute that caused even the military combat Yao to lose their halo. Thinking about that undefeatable figure wrapped in fire, Mo Ruo felt his entire body tremble. Compared to Xiaomogu, he was just a sheep wrapped in wolfskin. So weak and gentle, so innocent and harmless. Those that fell under the butchering knife of Xiaomogu included geniuses that Mo Ruo heard of like Yu Zizhou, battle-hardened combat Yao, and a few that he was very familiar with. Those Yao channels had just mentioned them, but Mo Ruo knew them. He even had good relations with one of them. Those people were truly lawless people that worked in the shadows. They did not blink when they killed, vicious and emotionless. They were all people that Emoruho was very wary about. But all of them, without exception, had fallen under the blade of Xiao Emogu, even though the battles were in the 10-finger prison. But this was not what caused him to feel terror. Just yesterday, the one he had the closest relationship with had died in front of him. Speaking of him, Emoruho was not close to the guy. They had just interacted a few times. But that guy had no friends and had found him in the end. Emoruho could only go. In the end, he had taken care of the corpse. On the surface, it seemed the death was caused by old wounds like injuries to the consciousness, but the true fatal blow was the powerful blow that person's mind had received. That was the true cause of his death. That blow of Xiao Emogu had not just wounded his consciousness, it had completely destroyed his will. What the person had said to him at that time, Emoruho almost didn't believe his ears. The guy that died definitely had taken more than 30 lives. His will was definitely as sturdy as rock. Normal illusory arts could not affect him. He was so vicious and cruel that even Emoruho felt some fear of him. But a guy as powerful as him had met his end by one blow from Xiao Emogu. And that was in the 10-finger prison. This guy was terrifying to an extreme degree. After that incident, in Emoruho's heart, Xiao Emogu was a terrifying existence like a demonic god, and ranked first among those that he would not dare provoke. What were Mingyu Yi Jiliyu? They can all go to hell. Emoruho usually did not place any importance on those geniuses. In his eyes, those so-called geniuses were garden flowers that lived in the greenhouse. No matter how attractive they looked, they were only able to be admired but not used. Those that did not experience blood and fire, they were just greenhorns. But Xiao Emogu was a vicious beast that climbed out of hell. He had actually ran over to make trouble for Xiao Emogu. A phrase jumped out of his mind. He didn't want to live. Did he not want to live? His mind was completely blank. He lost the ability to speak and to think. He could only look at Xiao Emogu dumbly. Every bone in his body, every piece of muscle was frozen midair. Was today the apocalypse? When he refocused, he was less than one zhang from Xiao Emogu. Chapter 388. Fantasy Flame Tornado. Pu Yao greedily absorbed the golden souls. In the battle between him and Wei, he held the advantage, but he also had expended himself greatly. The 2 golden souls the chief elder of the Grey clan had delivered were a rain that came at the right time. He unhesitatingly stole them from Zuomo's hand. Zuomo did not stop him. He had probably guessed that it would be impossible to prevent. The golden mist permeated Pu Yao's body at a visible rate. Pu Yao showed a satisfied expression. However, a portion of the golden mist drifted towards Wei. Even though it was just a quarter, Pu Yao was still slightly discontent. However, he had no solution to this problem. Just like no matter how much he found this false gentleman an eyesore, he was not able to kill the other. There was a direction connection between his 3,000 years of survival in the Yao Forging Tower and this strange wretched armor. Wei was the armor spirit of this wretched armor. Pu Yao was about the same, but he was not restricted by the armor. He had worked his mind for 3,000 years to try to take over this gravestone armor. But this gravestone armor was a closed system and extremely strange. However, when he thought about how this false gentleman was unable to shrink back into the turtle shell, Pu Yao couldn't help but be smug. Anyway about it, he was a Sky Yao. He understood all kinds of obscure methods, and he finally found a few that were effective. From a certain perspective, he and Wei shared an existence. The two could not destroy each other. Pu Yao could not even absorb the golden souls completely by himself. There definitely would be a portion which Wei would absorb. Even though Pu Yao clearly held the more powerful position, there was nothing for him to feel happy about. Even if this false gentleman had an extraordinary background, but in the eyes of Pu Yao, whose eyes were on the top of his head, this was a very low thing. A piece of armor sitting in a position equal to his. This was too motherfucking displeasing to Ji. Having finished absorbing the golden soul, Pu Yao's hair became even darker and shinier, and his bloody pupil had an additional sheen. The snake-like tongue unconsciously licked his lips with lingering hunger. He glanced at Wei, who was sitting cross-legged. He could see that the golden soul was also of significant help to Wei. A cold smirk floated at the corner of Pu Yao's mouth. After 3,000 years together, he understood his neighbor very well. Even if this guy agreed to not pass Mo skills to Mo, he would not give up so easily. However, Wei definitely would not think that his scant words that day had inspired great trust in Pu Yao. To a person as perverse as Pu Yao, the inspiration brought by the most minuscule hint could change too many things. Just wait and see. Pu Yao narrowed his eyes. Mo stared at Mo Ruhua and was slightly surprised. A person that looked so rough used such strange Yao arts. Yao really could not be judged based on their appearances. Mo Ruhua shivered under Mo's stare. Mo's silence pressured him. What should he say at this time? Sorry, I got the wrong person? Or brother, I've long heard of you, give your little brother mercy. Or just run away immediately. Various thoughts formed in the pitiful Mo Ruhua's mind. He did not think of resisting at all. Even if he was facing Yu Zizhou, he definitely would not be so nervous. Yu Zizhou was stronger than him, but he believed if he gritted his teeth and did not fear death, he would have a chance at survival. He felt that in terms of viciousness, the great majority of geniuses could not compare to him. But facing Xiao Emogu, no matter if they competed on strength or viciousness, he thought he had no chance at all. What made him want to cry was that he had been the one to instigate this matter. He really was seeking death. He wanted to slap himself. Such an idiotic matter had happened to him. All of the fighters of the Yao world were trying to avoid this brute right now, and he had pushed himself in front of the other. Even he knew that the bounties of the Yao markets for Xiao Emogu were continuously decreasing. The Yao that had been wanting to watch a spectacle were really frightened this time. Vicious and savage, bloodthirsty and murderous, this kind of presence wasn't something a Yao with clean hands could have. The consciousness could not be faked. On this point, almost all the Yao had come to an unusual consensus. Xiao Emogu was a lawless brute whose hands were drenched in blood. The elders of those students ordered them to stop their actions against Xiao Emogu, and some overzealous students were put under house arrest by their clan, unable to leave. The Ji family and the Blue Flower family kept low-key, and clearly did not want any further incidents. Even the Genius Alliance, which was usually loud-spoken, collectively lost their voice. They had enough privilege, enough strength, but none were willing to provoke a lawless brute. Even more so a lawless brute who was so young but had such power. Some experienced Yao discussed secretly among themselves, suggesting that if Xiao Emogu could live for another 20 years, then the Yao world would have another butcher. Just as Mo Ruhua was thinking what to do, Xiao Emogu suddenly spoke. You left behind the Yao art imprint on Songlin? Mo Ruhua's heart shook once. This was the classic interrogation. Mo's words destroyed the last lingering thread of hope inside. Mo Ruhua was truly a vicious person. The desperate situation provoked his viciousness. He raised his head and said harshly, Yes, I left it. Mo made sure, and so he did not hesitate. A few little Yao arts smashed from his hands towards Mo Ruhua. As they started to fight, Mo Ruhua started to calm down and settled to receive Mo's attacks. After a few rounds, he quickly found that Xiao Emogu did not have the unstoppable presence he had in the Yao recording arts. His attacks could not be considered strong. However, Mo Ruhua was very battle experienced. His murderousness was usually high, but he was cautious when he fought. After standing up for 20 more breaths, Xiao Emogu was still as soft as water, and did not pose too much of a threat. At this time, Mo Ruhua finally relaxed completely and his attacks increased. Mo Ruhua's Yao art was extremely unique. His hands would continuously flick and swipe at the space in front of him, as he was surrounded by dancing flames. The flames in the air floated along to strange paths. It was as though there were invisible threads in front of him that pulled the flames surrounding him. Mo randomly threw out a little Yao art, and stopped a thread of flame. A feeling of danger rose. He did not hesitate and saw a blade of flame brush past his scalp. There was no time for him to dodge as a spear of flame jumped up and pointed straight at his stomach. Mo's legs crossed, and the fingers of his left hand flicked. A little Yao art accurately hit the flame spear, and caused it to divert from its path. However, Mo Ruhua's attack did not stop, and became even fiercer. The flames surrounding him were not just able to dance and attack to his will, but could transform into all kinds of attack forms. It was the first time that Zhua Mo encountered a Yao art as strange as this. His actions were uncoordinated, and he made a somewhat sorry figure. Mo Ruhua saw this and his morale rose. He guessed that Xiao Mo Ji's golden yellow armor probably had some special restriction. Another possibility was that Xiao Mo Gu had been wounded last time. Otherwise, he should not be refraining from using the armor. Thinking about it this way, the terror in Mo Ruhua's heart retreated. Xiao Mo Ji's situation was not uncommon. Those Yao arts that were wondrously powerful usually had stringent requirements, or one had to pay a weighty price. If it was like that, then this was undoubtedly the time where Xiao Mo Gu was the weakest. Was this a chance given by the heavens? Thinking about this brute that shook all of the Yao world being abused under his hands, a feeling of exhilaration that he never had before filled his body. His body was even trembling from his excitement. Such a wonderful matter. A matter that he didn't even dare to think of was happening in front of him. The extreme terror and the hopelessness from before decreased. The stimulation and pleasure produced almost consumed him. In this kind of wondrous situation, his state reached the highest peak of his life. The Yao art that he had just had a breakthrough with did not seem raw in his hands, and was confidently executed. Each Yao art was carried out instinctively, so perfect that he felt this was a pleasurable experience. Zhua Mo felt as though he had suddenly landed in a flaming hurricane. All kinds of fire Yao arts covered the skies and earth as they shot at him. Even worse, he had no room to dodge. The others' Yao art spread out, and their presence was bigger than Zhua Mo imagined. However, Zhua Mo was not panicking. His figure looked sorry, but both his expression and his gaze was dead still. The light on his hands never stopped. To him, little Yao arts were as simple as breathing. Sometimes it was one light, sometimes many. 500 kinds of little Yao arts formed from the many combinations in his hands. These little Yao art combinations either guided or stopped. Zhua Mo would frequently find the smallest space and use them to dodge repeatedly. The flame hurricane continuously strengthened. Looking at Xiao Mo Gu, who was in a sorry state under his Yao arts, Mo Ruhua felt extremely smug. The longer his fantasy flame tornado persisted, the more powerful it was. It would continuously strengthen itself, and the amount of spiritual power he expended would not change greatly. The longer this battle dragged out, the more advantageous it was for him. As expected, Xiao Mo Gu became even more harried. There were a few wounds on his body. Even though it was just a few small wounds, Mo Ruhua could not help but roar with laughter. Xiao Mo Gu. Struggle. Experience such wonderful Yao arts. Haha. Ooh, another wound so pitiful. Mo Ruhua started to play his favorite game of cat and mouse. Looking at Xiao Mo Gu, who was holding on in the tornado, he did not want to miss any scene. Tiithe. Really hardy. As expected of Xiao Mo Gu. Such beautiful movements. Come on. Let's have another one. Haha. Mo Ruhua laughed freely. Inside the tornado, Zhua Mo was silent as he withstood with effort. But Mo Ruhua did not notice that the lights on Zhua Mo's dangling hands were slowly changing. Chapter 389. The lights continuously changed on Zhua Mo's hands. His brow was tightly furrowed. Little Yao arts flowed like water past his fingertips. He had a serious expression, and did not dare to slack off. As the tornado increased in strength, he could clearly feel the pressure increase along with it. He had to use 120% of his attention for each step. If he was the least bit careless, he would be drowned in the barrage of attacks. The fire Yao arts the other cast were extremely unorthodox, and completely different than anything he had encountered before. What had attracted his attention though was the Yao art imprint from Songlin's consciousness that he had deconstructed. That Yao art imprint had been strange and poisonous. It was completely different than these explosive Yao arts he was seeing now. Zhua Mo focused attentively on the chaotic-looking fire Yao arts. Like a fish swimming, his consciousness locked onto every Yao art that passed in front of him. He was unusually calm, his mind and eyes clear like a serene lake. The Yao arts passed like flickering silhouettes flashing across the lake. The reflections that these Yao arts created on the lake's surface gradually became clear. Zuemo did not blink. His steps were like that of a butterfly weaving between flowers, the little Yao arts on his hands extremely accurate, and appearing at the most appropriate time. With his attention occupied, even he did not detect his own transformation. Time was like a line that grew longer the more it was pulled. The lightning-fast Yao arts and fire seemed to become increasingly slow. Each Yao art was unprecedentedly clear in Zuemo's eyes. They seemed to pass by like snails. Every minuscule detail clearly landed in Zuemo's eyes. The wondrous feeling did not cause Zuemo to feel excited. His face was peaceful, and he searched for the traces of what interested him among these Yao arts. The Yao art imprint inside Songlin was his target this time. The abundant fire Yao arts looked domineering, but were not what he desired. Just at this time, the lights on Zuemo's hands finally stabilized. The faint glowing light seemed to form a thin and small glove of light that enveloped his palm. This Yao art was called Tactile Knowledge Grip. This was a Yao art that Zuemo had created. It was not complex, but it had taken great mental effort. This Yao art could clearly identify the attributes of a Yao art, and was a Yao art he created especially to help him deconstruct other Yao arts. But it was the first time that he used Tactile Knowledge Grip. In battle, a bloody red blade of fire came towards his neck at a difficult angle. Zuemo raised his hand and grabbed at the blade of fire. A hand of light projected from his own, and grabbed the blade of fire. The blade of fire shook fiercely as if it was a fish that had been captured and wanted to jerk out of the hand. Pew pew pew. The outer layers of the blade of flame quickly dissipated, and revealed a section of bloody vine. Zuemo's eyes brightened and his hands moved in the air. The hand of light gripped onto the bloody vine. Such an unique construction. Zuemo closed his eyes, and his consciousness shot at the bloody vine. The excited Ruhua stilled. Xiao Emogu actually closed his eyes. What was this guy thinking of doing? Did he want to surrender? Did Xiao Emogu think that he would let him off like that? Ruhua's bloodlust had been aroused, and his fear of Zuemo had been thrown out of his mind. A cruel smile suddenly came onto his face. Suddenly his pupils expanded and his smile froze on his face. Inside the tornado, the figure of Xiao Emogu with his closed eyes became even hard to predict like wisps of smoke. The sky full of Yao arts couldn't even touch the corner of his clothes. Why? Ruhua suddenly had a bad feeling. Just now, Xiao Emogu had been a sorry figure, but now he seemed so at ease as though he was strolling around. Had he been pretending before? There was a section of blood vine inside the blade of flame. Shocked, Zuemo's interest rose. This was it. The bloody vine was what he was interested in. When he had been healing Songlin, he had found the bloody vine was very unique. It could securely root itself inside the consciousness of the enemy, and was extremely hard to eradicate. Zuemo had spent a great deal of effort to deconstruct that little section of bloody vine. Some of its unique structure had interested him greatly. This was why he had especially waited for Ruhua to come find him. Zuemo's style was to only act if there were benefits. He would not make trouble merely on behalf of Songlin. That little section of bloody vine excited Zuemo, but it was just a little section, and not a complete structure. Zuemo required a more complete bloody vine, because this seemed related to another Yao art. 10 breaths later, Zuemo crushed the little section of bloody vine that he had finished studying, and started to search for the next target. The light grip was a new Yao art he made. It was constructed from 12 little Yao arts, and specifically used to peel away the outer layers of the other's fire Yao arts. His use of little Yao arts were at a mastery level. Even Pu Yao would occasionally praise it. After continuously capturing 6 fire Yao arts, Zuemo found that the bloody vine inside these fire Yao arts were not very different. He frowned again. The bloody vines inside these fire Yao arts were still incomplete. He raised his head and narrowed his eyes towards Ruhua. It seemed that he had to get this guy to put more effort in. Ruhua coincidentally saw Zuemo's gaze, and his body was instantly chilled. His face was ugly. The other seemed to have adjusted to his illusory flame tornado. Damn it. Why was it like this? The fantasy flame tornado was one of his killing moves and had never failed before. Viciousness flashed through his eyes. Having escalated the fighting to this point, if it was not you that died, it would be me. He gritted his teeth and burrowed into the tornado. Zhuemo stilled at Ruhua's action. He quickly had a wary expression. The fantasy flame tornado that had been rampaging about suddenly became silent without any decrease in speed. The fire Yao arts inside the tornado flew backwards rapidly. Ruhua was like a strong magnet, attracting all the fire Yao arts to fly over. A strange and dangerous presence covered Zhuemo. Zhuemo was motionless as he stared at Ruhua in the sky. Ruhua was surrounded by all kinds of fire Yao arts. He glared at Zhuemo and insanity flashed through his eyes. All of his thoughts disappeared at this time. His consciousness was all consumed. The fire Yao arts floating around him suddenly released an enchanting red light. Pia. Like magnets, fire Yao arts were attracted to each other. Pia pia pia. The fire Yao arts around Ruhua were combining into pairs and trios to become even larger fire Yao art. The powerful presence was like a gust of wind that blew at Zhuemo. Zhuemo narrowed his eyes. His hands were like blooming flowers. Tactile knowledge grip was used to its limits. Threads of light floated from between his hands, and the mist-like light formed a crystal-like ball of light in the air above Zhuemo's dancing hands. He used the layering method of sky glass wave on tactile knowledge grip to form this crystal ball of light. Lights continuously flew out of Zhuemo's blurred fingers and entered the crystal ball of light. The ball of lightly slowly revolved and gradually formed a glass-like hand. Zhuemo's narrowed eyes became brighter. Every minuscule change in the space surrounding the glass hand would appear in his eyes. Even the thin hair-like strands of spiritual power that passed by the hand would be accurately captured by Zhuemo. It was the first time he had used the tactile knowledge grip like this. Ruhua seemed to be surrounded by an aura of red light. The enchanting red light carried the presence of blood. The fire Yao arts floating by his side had completely changed. Their mass was 5 or 6 times what it had been before. Zhuemo's eyes brightened. Waves of strange spiritual thought came from these bloated fire Yao arts. Zhuemo suddenly had a feeling that there seemed to be something alive inside each fire Yao art. Zhuemo thought of one of his own Yao arts, archaic wasteland sacrificial art. Up until now, he had seen many Yao arts, but this was the second Yao art that was like the archaic wasteland sacrificial art. Yao arts were Yao arts. No matter how strong they were, how powerful the presence it produced, but only these 2 Yao arts could produce vitality. When Zhuemo had been deconstructing the Yao art imprint inside Song Lin, he had detected the faint presence of life contained in the blood vine. This made him very curious, but it had not been as strong as what he was feeling now. The threads of spiritual thought inside the fire Yao arts were filled with a feeling of darkness and maliciousness. Compared to the archaic wasteland sacrificial art, the vitality contained in these fire Yao arts was much weaker and incomplete. But those threads of spiritual thought filled with vitality made Zhuemo feel spirited like he never had been before. Archaic wasteland sacrificial art was his final ultimate move, and would be used to save his life at a crucial moment. Pu Yao had told him that the archaic wasteland sacrificial art was not one move, but a set of Yao arts. But no matter how Zhuemo asked about the topic, Pu Yao never mentioned one bit about the other moves of this set of Yao arts. Pu Yao closed his mouth and never even discussed the origins of this wasteland beast. What Zhuemo felt even more helpless about was that he could not find any similar Yao arts to refer to. He did not fear if Pu Yao did not tell him, but if he did not even have a Yao art to use as reference, then he could do nothing. Until today. This was the first Yao art Zhuemo encountered that had attributes similar to the archaic wasteland sacrificial art. How could he let pass by? 5 enormous fire Yao arts floated next to Ruhua. The 5 fire Yao arts were of different shapes. One was like the head of an axe, another like a snake, while the remaining 3 were hard to distinguish. Ruhua's entire body was covered in the enchanting red light. The twisted face had a few hints of evil. Go die! Ruhua bellowed. 5 dashes of red light tore the air and smashed towards Zhuemo. Zhuemo's pupils suddenly shrank. His hand seemed to wave weakly. The crystal hand was like the willow branch blown by the wind and coincidentally caught one of the red lights. In a moment, countless bits of information entered Zuomo's mind. Time seemed to stop during this moment. Zuomo's mind moved at an unprecedented speed as it digested the enormous amount of information that flooded it. In order to digest the information, he stopped all of his actions, and his body became motionless. He suddenly turned to a wooden puppet. A faint enchanting red light suddenly lit up in Zuomo's puppet-like eyes. The other 4 streaks of red light instantly flew in front of him. The bright red light reflected onto Zuomo's face. Ruhu's roars of laughter came into his ears. Zuomo was motionless and had no intentions of dodging. No one noticed that the red light in his eyes suddenly exploded. The red light instantly engulfed Zuomo, laughing furiously in the air. Ruhu did not notice a hair-think gray energy silently crept up his back, quickly permeated through it, and disappeared. Chapter 390. Working together, Wei Sheng sat cross-legged with the black sword upright by his side. For some unknown reason, the corrosive fiendish mist would not come within 3 zhang of him. He opened his inky black eyes that shone with a determined light. His daily life was extremely routine, so routine it was frightening. Practicing the sword, meditation, and teaching others became the essential and only parts of his daily life. He would repeat the dull and monotonous cultivation over and over. He did not use Ling power, relying on just his physical body, to slice and chop until all of his strength was exhausted and his entire body trembled. A Jindan expert cultivating to the point that his body would not stop trembling. Both Zhong Ru and Yi Zheng, whose cultivation emphasized hard work, felt ashamed when they saw this kind of self-abusive and sadistic cultivation method, much less the sword Xiao and guard camp. When everyone mentioned Wei Xingdaran, they would feel admiration from the depths of their hearts. Every person knew hard work and persistence could lead to improvement, but how many could do it? The only one that could reach Wei Sheng's level was only Wei Xingdaran. Also a Jindan, Xie Shan had essentially become Wei Sheng's manservant and followed him like a shadow. Wei Sheng breathed out. Hiss! The fiendish mist 3 zhang away tore apart as though an invisible sword essence had cut through it. He had a satisfied expression. It may have been due to teaching others that he had recently comprehended much and improved greatly. Suddenly, a wail came from Zuomo's tent. It was Shidi. Wei Sheng's figure suddenly disappeared from his spot. Pain, pain. Ow, so painful. Inside the tent, Zuomo was jumping about as though a fire was lit on his butt. His mouth was open and his nose and brow was almost squeezed together. It hurts hiss so much. Zuomo ran around in the tent like a headless chicken as though it could relieve his pain. Lil Fire seemed to have found a new toy and instantly became excited. It hung on to Zuomo's behind and swung around as it chirped cheerfully. Seeing the chaotic scene, Wei Sheng had a wry smile on his face. His heart relaxed. Shidi, what is it? You alright? Hiss, hiss. The sound of Zuomo inhaling could be clearly heard. As he ran around, he waved his hand. Nothing, hiss, nothing. Lil Fire found it fun and seemed to mimic his speech. Chirp, 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 chirp. Zuomo glared angrily. Lil Fire was frightened, and its body froze in the air. Hiss! Zuomo inhaled again. His expression of fury instantly dissipated. His expression was very strange as he started to jump around in a hurry. Lil Fire recovered from fright, and thought that Zuomo was playing with it. It chirped happily as it leapt over and hung on behind Zuomo. Wei Sheng was helpless against Shidi's weirdness. He shook his head and left. Zuomo knew that if he was thrown out of the Wasteland Beast chessboard, his consciousness would probably be injured, but he had not expected his consciousness injury to be so painful. If he had known, he definitely would not have done this dumb thing. It had been too long since he was last injured. Zuomo had almost forgotten the pain of consciousness injuries. This time, it really was so painful he wanted to die. The damned little red. Wait for Ji will return. As he breathed in jerks, Zuomo gritted his teeth and swore an oath. Several black figures passed by like lightning, and several sharp edges crisscrossed in the air before suddenly appearing on the Fiend Soul Beast. The Fiend Soul Beast was instantly dismembered, and leaving behind only a black fong and a bead. The fong and the bead were put away. The hardship guards had joyful expressions. At this time, the expression of one of the people shifted. Gathering orders. Back to the camp, immediately. The other people quickly disappeared in the fiendish mist without another word. In the guard campgrounds, Shulong looked at everyone who had finished gathering, and was very comforted. Everyone's improvement in this time had been great and unexpected to him. All of the hardship guards that cultivated hardship guard had formed their weapons. He had originally predicted they would need 1 or 2 years, and had not expected it to be complete in less than a month. He was filled with respect and awe towards the mystery Darren inside the necklace. In his view, that Darren could do anything. It was the guidance of this Darren in this recent while that caused everyone to all finish forming their weapons. All of the cultivation regimes had been personally prescribed by the mystery Darren. In this short month, the power of the entire guard camp had multiplied. His thoughts were interrupted by the gazes of those below him. He focused and said in a deep voice, "In this recent while everyone has cultivated successfully and finished forming the weapons. Good. Very good." Shulong's praise caused the hardship guards below to raise their heads and puff up their chests, their faces bright. Shulong had a warm personality, but he was extremely stern when he supervised their cultivation. Everyone felt honored to receive his praise and were very proud. The expressions of everyone landing in his eyes, the corners of Shulong's mouth imperceptibly smiled. He then said in a serious tone, "In order to commend everyone's recent efforts, Darren has passed down new cultivation techniques." Everyone below instantly had joy and anticipation on their faces. Everyone has to work hard on this great day hardship guard. Its power is even greater. I won't say much, but only when our strength becomes strong can we give our service to Darren. To be able to protect Darren. Does everyone still remember the oath we took in the past? Whoosh, everyone simultaneously bowed and said together, "Do not dare to forget." Every hardship guard had excitement on their faces. "You are too daring." Wei's expression was at ease as though he was narrating a small nondescript matter. It is not so easy to modify a MO skill. "You feel guilty," Pu Yao said coldly. There was no warmth in his bloody pupil. "What do I feel guilty for?" Wei's voice did not ripple at all. Pu Yao smirked, his expression filled with scorn. "You definitely regret saying so much that day. You did not expect that I would deduce so much from your scattered rambling." "Yes, this point is unexpected to me." Wei openly nodded. "Your skill in Yao art surpasses my imagination. A Yao who is able to change MO skills using Yao arts. I cannot accomplish this." "Of course you cannot do it." Pu Yao was not modest at all. Wei smiled slightly, and his star-like eyes were bright. "Your theoretical level is definitely the most outstanding that I have ever seen, but you lack experience. Spells, Yao arts, MO skills, they do come from a common root, but after so many years of development, the divisions are clear. No matter if it is Yao arts or MO skills, they have developed far on their own paths." Pu Yao lowered his head to think for a moment. When he raised his head, the scorn on his face had disappeared. He said seriously, "Your words are not wrong. My Yao art theory and knowledge are based on the experience of those before me. These are my fundamentals, but I lack the fundamentals of MO skills." "A very clear awareness," Wei calmly praised. "Your conditions." Pu Yao glanced at Wei and said coldly, "A complete golden soul." Wei raised a finger. "Half." Pu Yao shook his head. "Agreed." Wei unhesitantly nodded. He knew that even if he did not tell Pu Yao, with Pu Yao's talents, it would not be difficult to study and come to understand. He only needed to find some experimental subjects and make comparisons to come to the conclusion. Righteous Yao might not use these kinds of extreme methods, but for someone who was insane like Pu Yao, there was nothing that he would not do. Also, Wei's original intention was not to gain something from this transaction. He hoped that this was a good beginning. No matter if it was against Pu Yao or Zhuoremo, this was extremely important as those that cultivated Great Day Hardship Guard were Zhuomo's subordinates. Wei was clear to the contents of the Great Day Hardship Guard that Pu Yao had modified using the Great Day MO physique. Pu Yao had not concealed any part of the process from him. He was also clear about the problems of the Great Day Hardship Guard. Truthfully, Puyao had shocked him greatly. A Yao that modified a MO skill. He had never heard of such a thing in his past. More crucially, the Great Day Hardship Guard that Puyao had modified had an extremely high-level skill. If this MO skill was thrown into the MO world, it definitely would become a MO skill that would be passed down in a clan. Wei was also clear that if he wanted to do anything, he needed to first prove his value. Because he had a practical landlord. He did not conceal anything, and proactively discussed with Puyao to make this MO skill even more complete. Puyao also saw Wei in a different light. Existences such as armor spirits might accumulate large amounts of knowledge because they had long lifespans, but they were not necessarily outstanding in terms of intelligence. But Wei showed how he was different compared to normal armor spirits. He did not just have a wealth of knowledge, he also had outstanding intelligence. This completely upended Puyao's understanding of armor spirits. He was slightly curious. The origins of this false gentleman didn't seem to be small. No matter how much of a biased opinion Puyao had towards Wei, the discussion went extremely smooth. These two geniuses quickly found synergy. A completely new Great Day Hardship Guard came out of the stove. When the skill was completed, Puyao and Wei exchanged a look and found the anticipations in each other's eyes. This completely new MO art, with the Hardship Guard as the foundation and merging the Great Day MO physique as well as Puyao's Yao arts. What heights would this reach? This was really worthy of anticipating. The next morning when Zuomo woke up, he found that the wounded consciousness that had caused him so much pain had healed. What happened? Zuomo jumped up. He touched around and found that there was no pain. He hurriedly inspected his body. Had something new occurred inside his body? Calming down, he entered his inner perspective. He was completely shocked by the scene in front of him. Chapter 391, Great Mo Physique. The flame seed inside Zuomo's body tinged with gold flickered. These golden flames had extremely unique shapes. They seemed to be like overlapping waves, layered together. There were more than 5 layers. The color of each layer was different. The innermost layer was almost transparent, and the outermost layer was pure dazzling golden yellow. They burned silently. Zuomo suddenly recalled his golden crow fire seed. He hurried to look and his expression changed slightly. The golden crow fire had disappeared without a trace. Golden crow fire was a 4th grade flame, and it could completely fulfill any of his present demands. It could melt gold and iron easily, and was one of Zuomo's greatest assistants. Its sudden disappearance instantly made Zuomo slightly panicked. A thought suddenly jumped into his mind. Had some new change happened to the golden crow fire? His thoughts shifted, and the layered flame changed as expected. Pew! Large amounts of layered flame suddenly erupted out of Zuomo's palm, and formed a hand of fire. Zuomo curiously put his hand in front of him. The boundaries between the layers of the golden layered flame were extremely clear. It exuded an astonishing heat, but his palm was as cold as ice. Zuomo found it interesting and his consciousness burrowed into the golden layered flame. Pew! The golden layered flame suddenly erupted. A pressuring heat, with Zuomo at the center, exploded outwards. The defensive formations of the tent suddenly lit up with a red glow and stopped this wave of heat. Pia pia pia. The red light retreated. There was a crackling like glass breaking, and Zuomo's heart leapt when he heard this. The last layer of formations forcibly stopped this terrifying wave of heat. Zuomo instantly released a breath. However, when he saw the mess inside the tent, his heart shivered. There was a layer of black glass on the ground. This was because the heat had melted the granite. Zuomo instantly judged that the golden layered flame was better than the golden crow fire. At least 5th grade. Zuomo thought to himself somewhat cheerfully. If it wasn't that he knew the golden crow macro formation, and could harvest golden crow fire at will, obtaining the 4th grade golden crow fire would not be easy, much less obtaining this golden layered flame of a high grade. The golden layered flame had a higher grade, and was even more powerful. The requirement to control it was even higher. Zuomo thought to himself that he had to spend time studying this golden layered flame. Otherwise, it was shameful if he had a treasure and could not use it. The changes to Zuomo's body were not just limited to the golden layered flame. If he did not see it with his own eyes, Zuemo would not believe that this body was his. Bones like crystal, the blood vessels that all glowed, and the patterns on them could be clearly seen. The blood inside the vessels was bright and fresh, filled with vitality and shining with a faint golden light. They circulated extremely slowly. If Zuemo's consciousness was not extremely sensitive, he would have thought that the blood was unmoving. Zuemo quickly found the cause. The blood that was tinged with golden light was now much more viscous. Even the blood vessels were multiple times thicker, and gave off the feeling of power. Other than the channels and blood vessels, the muscles and tendons inside Zuemo's body had completely transformed. The strong muscles had a faint gold sheen like it had been brushed with a layer of golden oil. The tendons inside his body were thinner and more slender than before, but Zuemo could feel the astonishing power contained inside. Zuemo had a strange feeling that he had become a weirdo. A weirdo that had endless strength and an inhumanly strong body. Slightly insecure, Zuemo instantly ran into the sea of consciousness. When he saw Pu Yao, he burst out, "Pu, what is with my body?" Pu Yao's eyes were closed in relaxation. He said lazily, "Don't startle over nothing. Your Great Day Mo physique advanced, that's all." Great Day Mo physique advanced? Zuemo realized, and the stone inside his heart landed. He was instantly interested. Haha, so it advanced. What are the benefits from advancing? Pu, tell me more. The corner of Pu Yao's uncovered eye imperceptibly twitched, and then he drawled. An insignificant Great Day Mo physique advancement. What else is there to say? Zuemo instantly was discontent. He smirked. An insignificant Great Day Mo physique advancement? If you have the skill, do this insignificant thing as well. Don't hold the bread and say you don't have food. Gu is relying on this to kill Yao and Mo. If we can't walk out of this ghastly place, can you? Pu Yao was speechless. Wei felt very good inside. Even though helping Zuemo in secret had been an action taken out of helplessness, but now he found that this guy was truly a weirdo. He had lost a few times to Pu Yao. He had a deep experience of Pu Yao's cunning and maliciousness. Seeing Pu Yao defeated by Zuemo, he felt great no matter how he looked at it. If he wasn't wary of Pu Yao, he wanted to clap his hands in pleasure. However, he maintained his position and pretended to not overhear Zuemo and Pu Yao's argument. Pu Yao was one to get even. Zuemo was unafraid, but he could not say the same. Unable to go back into the gravestone, his power was weaker than Pu Yao. Even more, Pu Yao was more cunning than him, more vicious than him, and dominated him in all aspects. Look at the time, you are still hiding things? Zuemo was furious. Pu Yao suddenly opened his eyes. You can ask him about the Great Day Mo physique. Wei. Zuemo was slightly puzzled. He turned to ask Wei. You understand the Great Day Mo physique? He suddenly nodded in realization. Right. You jumped out of the gravestone. You definitely understand the Great Day Mo physique. Wei was shocked inside. He looked at Pu Yao, who had closed his eyes again, and was puzzled. After the gravestone had been sealed by Pu Yao, he had been forced into an agreement with Pu Yao, and could not to pass Mo skills onto Zuemo. This time, Pu Yao had actually suggested of his own initiative for Zuemo to ask him for help with the Great Day Mo physique. Wasn't this strange? Out of caution, he shook his head. I cannot teach you Mo skills. Why? Zuemo stilled. His eyes widened and he suddenly showed realization. He said generously, What do you want? Name a price. Wei closed his mouth and did not speak. Pu Yao opened his eyes again and said to Wei, This guy is right. If we cannot leave this ghastly place, no one will be well off. Since his Great Day Mo physique has advanced, it is beneficial for everyone if you teach him a bit. This does not betray your oath. Wei's bewilderment increased. Pu Yao's words were righteous and appeared reasonable, but the more it appeared so, the more Wei felt the other had a scheme. Wei pondered it momentarily inside, and then made a decision. He nodded. All right. What he needed to do was not betray his oath, and be able to pass Mo skills to Zuemo. Even if Pu Yao had secret intentions, he decided to take the chance. Seeing Wei agree, Zuemo was overjoyed. He hurriedly sat opposite Wei. Pu Yao closed his eye again. He might have been resting his mind or meditating. Wei pushed aside his stray thoughts and slowly began. The Great Day Mo physique is an extremely rare Mo physique, extremely young and strong, unparalleled in dominance. You are familiar with the 6 transformations of the Great Day Mo physique. Do you still remember when you had used all 6 transformations at the same time? A bit. Zhua Mo nodded. It has a name, Great Mo physique, Wei said faintly, and a strange look flashed through his eyes. Great Mo physique? The Great Mo physique is the sign that Mo physique has reached maturation, but this situation is very strange. Wei said in a deep voice. You are not a pure Mo theoretically, the possibility of achieving Great Mo physique is very low, but you managed to do it. Even now, I do not understand the cause of this. Would there be any danger? Zhua Mo hurried to ask. The Great Day Mo physique did have great power, but if he lost his life in trade for this, then it was not profitable. There is no danger. Wei said with a warm smile. For you there are only benefits and no harmful effects. You should have found the changes in your body. Those are traits unique to your Great Mo physique. Your body right now is a body that cannot be unbroken. The flying swords controlled by Ningmai Xiuzhe cannot harm you. The Diana Xiu have similar techniques that create a body that cannot be damaged. Other than a few traits, there is no basic difference. Zhua Mo listened extremely carefully. Wei's understanding of the Mo physique seemed to be deeper than Pu Yao. The layered flame inside your body is called the Great Day Banded Flame. It is a kind of 6th grade fire seed. Very few Mo that cultivate the Great Day Mo physique can form the Great Day Banded Flame. This must be related to the Xiuzhe spells you cultivated before. Wei said humbly. The Great Day Mo physique is very rarely seen. I do not know much about it, and can only use some of what I know for you as reference. The Great Day Banded Flame was actually a 6th grade fire seed. In this moment, Zhua Mo felt so happy he could faint. 6th grade fire seed. This meant that his forging and dam making would increase by 2 levels. Zhua Mo wore a stupid smile. Wei saw Zhua Mo's expression and couldn't help but grin. He did not hurry Zhua Mo along, and waited for Zhua Mo to come out of his daze. When Zhua Mo's gaze became clear again, he continued. After using the 6 changes of the Great Day Mo physique to form the Great Mo physique, it can open the deep Mo levels. How is it different? Wei smiled and then said seriously. The 6 changes of the deep Mo levels dramatically increase in power. Only then will you truly have the power to equal the top Jindan Xiuzhe. With an outstanding appearance, a humble presence, a serious expression, the cross-legged Wei was like the most devout preacher. How do you open the deep Mo layer's 6 transformations? Zhua Mo asked. Comprehension. How do I gain comprehension? Very sorry, I do not know that either. Wei shook his head with a slight smile. Let me tell you of an example of someone that comprehend the deep Mo level. Maybe this will give you some help. The deep pupils lit up with the sheen of remembrance, the handsome face filled with reminiscence. My previous master's Mo physique when entering the kernel stage was called Serene Python. It cannot compare to your Great Day Mo physique. The Serene Python is a Mo physique famed for its strength, and it only has 3 transformations. Wei's tone was deep and carried an inexplicable charisma as he narrated. She was 14 when she reached the Great Mo physique of the Serene Python. Wei raised his head to see the shock on Zhua Mo's face and smiled. He then said, however, it was only when she was 17 that she opened the deep Mo layer of the 3 Serene Python changes. In these 3 years, she journeyed through 9 Mo jies. Zhua Mo was stunned. He murmured, 9. He could not imagine traveling over 9 Mo jies. Even if they were little jie like Sky Moon jie. It wasn't just a matter of 1 or 2 months to cross one of them. Zhua Mo felt that he had gone many places, but compared to this person, it was an embarrassing comparison. Even more at 14. She fought 427 times, killed 59 Mo, wounded another 30, and was wounded 24 times. Zhua Mo froze in shock. Chapter 392. Making a Wish. What deep Mo level? Go to hell. This was the only thing Zhua Mo thought after hearing Wei speak of his previous master. If he really followed what Wei suggested, Zuo guessed that the only person among his compatriots that could accomplish this would be Wei Xingxixiang. Other people, including him, definitely could not realize it. Since it was an insurmountable task, then there was no need to trouble himself over it. This was Zuo's usual style. Compared to the unreliable deep Mo level, it was more important to find news regarding the Battle of Sealed Extinction. Due to his lack of wealth in the past, he had delayed going to the second prison. Now that he had money, this matter had to progress quickly. Thinking about it, Zuo entered the Wasteland Beast chessboard again. This time he did not go to find Nan Yu and Song Zhe, and went alone into the second prison. Song Lin's grievous injury had just healed and he needed to recover. Song Zhe and Nan Yu had to go through the test of the prison battlefield before they could enter the second prison. Zuo, due to finishing the prison-breaking battle, had already received the qualifications to enter the second prison. The second prison was called Dance of Falling Maples. Endless mountain ranges and large groves of fire-red maple trees extended endlessly into the distance. When a gentle wind blew past, the woods would creak, and fire-red maple leaves would be caught up in the wind and leave their branches. In that time, the maple leaves would be like red pixies that danced in the wind. Even the clouds in the sky would be slightly tinged with red. The scenery in front of him was as bright as fire, but Zuo felt an unspeakable feeling of sorrow and desolation in his chest. Zuo looked dazedly at the maple leaves floating in the wind. Was it that his calm had decreased after his consciousness was wounded? Zuo focused and mocked himself. He walked forward. Nan Yu looked with determination at the prison battlefield in front of her. Suddenly, Song Zhe's laugh came from behind her. You has also come here. Nan Yu turned around and couldn't help but be surprised. Today, Song Zhe seemed to be completely different than usual. Battle intent exuded faintly from his body, and his steps were determined. She instantly understood. Song Deji is also planning on today? Yes, I can't fall too much behind you, Song Zhe said with an open laugh. Nan Yu had slightly mirth on her face, the competitiveness in her eyes rising. Then let's see who succeed first. All right. See you in the second prison. See you in the second prison. The two figures charged into the prison battlefield at the same time. The Maple Leaf Market was the Yao city of the second prison, and also one of the largest cities of the Ten-Finger Prison. Usually, most Yao that entered the second prison were Yao that had successfully achieved planting of the spirit. Those who were successfully managed to rise above the lowest classes of Little Yao and Ghost Attendant Yao. The Yao of this stage were called Night Stalk Yao. The Yao that just ignited their starfire were called Little Yao. Those Yao that completed transformation were called Ghost Attendant Yao. And those that successfully planted their spirit were Night Stalk Yao. Night Stalk Yao was the true fundamental level of the Yao world. The local core's lowest requirement was Ghost Attendant Yao, but the true backbone of these core were the Night Stalk Yao. A core commanded directly by the Council of Elders were at minimum Night Stalk Yao. Zuo could clearly feel that the Yao that passed by were much stronger than the Wasteland Beast chessboard as he had expected. Night Stalk Yao were equivalent to Ningmai Xiuzha. However, due to how cultivating Yao arts meant communicating with the world, the presence exuded by Night Stalk Yao was stronger than Ningmai Xiuzha. Many Night Stalk Yao that successfully planted their spirit were unable to gather and conceal their power. All kinds of flowing rings of light would appear in the surroundings. Along the way, Zuo saw many strange and weird rings of light. Some were bright green, others fire red, some were shaped like a sickle while others had teeth or were crescents. It broadened his visions. These moving rings of light were related to the Yao arts they cultivated. Night Stalk Yao that just entered the spirit planting stage were unable to completely control their consciousness. A portion of the consciousness that leaked out would naturally form the Yao art they cultivated and produce stray rings of light. Yao who had good eyes were even able to judge the attribute of the Yao art from the rings of light. Those Night Stalk Yao that did not have rings of light were actually stronger. But no matter if they had a light ring or not, any Yao coming that saw Zuo's face clearly would pale, and then hurriedly jump to the side. One's name was like the shadow of a tree. With the name of Xiao Mo Gu, Zuo was a young expert that was known through the Yao world, especially after he had killed 26 Yao successively. It had given him a reputation of brutality, and no one dared to cause trouble for him. Anywhere he passed, the crowds of Yao avoided him. But a problem also came along. Zhuo was planning to ask for directions. Before he could speak, the other would turn and run as though their butts were on fire. A few ran even faster when they heard Zhuo speak, hating that their parents hadn't given birth to them with 2 more legs. Zhuo could only grimace. After a lot of effort, he finally learned the position of the Maple Leaf Market. After a few rounds at the Maple Leaf Market, he was slightly disappointed. As expected, this place was still quite low level. The things sold and the contents of those bounties were also low level. No wonder Tsang Lin suggested for him to go to the 3rd prison. He was doubtful if he could find information on the Battle of Sealed Extinction at the 3rd prison. A short while later, there were many Yao surrounding him. They looked at Zhuo with respect and awe and occasionally discuss. However, no one came over, clearly wary of Xiao Moji's reputation as a butcher. Zhuo shook his head. After asking for directions to the prison battlefield, he left. Everything Zhuo passed was extremely novel and unfamiliar, but Zhuo wasn't in the mood at this time. The Sealed Extinction battlefield was like a heavy rock weighing on his heart. Right now, they seemed to have it easier, but Zhuo knew if it dragged on, their situation would become even more precarious. The prison battlefield of the Dance of Falling Maples was a stand of beautiful and enchanting maple trees. Zhuo did not stop and unhesitatingly stepped into it. Zhongru's complexion was red gold, his lips slightly curved upward as though in a smile. His right hand seemed to be holding a flower as he sat with his legs crossed. His entire body seemed to be made from copper, a dignified and grave presence filling the entire room. A long while later, he slowly opened his eyes. Gold light flashed through his eyes, and the spell on his fingers disappeared. The dignified and grave presence around him instantly disappeared. An uncontrollable look of joy floated in Zhongru's pupils. He finally saw a great path towards Jindan. When he had received attainment golden body from Darren, even a person as composed as him was stunned where he stood. 6th grade spell. Darren had given him a 6th grade spell, and it was also a 6th grade Diana Xiao spell. For some reason, his nose had become sore, and he had almost cried. No one knew the greatest reason he had chosen the path of the Diana Xiao was that he lacked spells. His talent was not outstanding, and sex would not accept him based on merit. His family was also extremely poor and could not pay the tribute. No sect was willing to accept disciples like him. A Diana Xiao that had wandered by had felt pity at his situation and given him Sky Wave Fist Scripture. This fist scripture was very simple and could even be called rough, but Zhongru was still very grateful to that Diana Xiao. He knew this fist scripture was extremely rudimentary. If he wanted to progress, other than obtaining higher level spells, he could only work on his samadhi to achieve Ningmai. He used his outstanding persistence and finally reached Ningmai, even forming an abhina. Only he knew the hardship of this entire journey. However, samadhi meditation was not the solution to all. He furiously worked on his samadhi, but he quickly found that relying on just the practice of samadhi was unable to allow him to progress further. Zhongru had been disappointed, but he had not felt sad. He was not an ambitious person, and only worked hard on cultivation each day. But when Zhuo handed attainment golden body to him, everything changed. His cultivation that had remained still for so long actually grew a little sliver. Such a wondrous effect, as expected of a 6th grade spell. What he had never expected was that, other than the attainment golden body, Darren also gave him the 9-turn sky soil disc, a 6th grade spell, and a 6th grade talisman. Things that he didn't even dare to dream about were now in his hands. Darren had also said, using the Vajragata as the spindle, the 9-turn sky soil disc as the wheel, he would reforge the two into a prayer wheel that would definitely be powerful. Threads of warmth rose in Zhongru's heart, and a smile floated at the corner of his mouth. Darren never did unprofitable business. He wanted him to sell his life for his entire life. Then, he will sell himself to Darren. His hands suddenly came together. He lowered his eyes, his features dignified. His Diana heart was calm like an old well, a determined and grave voice echoing in his mind. Zhongru wishes, forsaking the path to Buddhahood, to use this body as a Vajra to protect Darren. His Diana heart that was calm suddenly became covered with black clouds. Wind and rain came, lightning flashed, thunder roared, and created waves that reached the sky. Zhongru gave a muffled grunt, and his expression changed slightly. But he seemed to not detect it. He closed his eyes, his voice as determined as usual. Zhongru wishes, forsaking the path to Buddhahood, to use this body as a Vajra to protect Darren. His body trembled fiercely, his Diana heart cracking all over and on the edge of collapsing. Zhongru gritted his teeth and closed his eyes, reciting his wish over and over. He seemed to be situated in a terrible storm, lightning snakes flashing above him and illuminating his determined face. He piously recited again, and again the wish he gave. Boom! A strange power suddenly formed from his nearly destroyed Diana heart, and quickly burrowed into his limbs and organs. Even more wondrous was that it permeated Zhongru's Ling power, and every bit of blood and flesh of his body. At the same time, the Ling power inside his body seemed to be awakened, and started to flow according to attainment golden body. A thread of strange power burrowed into his forehead. In the camp, everyone suddenly stopped their actions and turned to look at a corner of the camp. Everyone had shock on their faces. Core formation. Someone was entering Jindan. Yizheng, who was not far away from Zhongru, suddenly paled. His lips trembled and he exclaimed, "Wish power! Buddhahood abandonment death wish." How was it possible? Someone had given a death wish. Did he not know that if one gave a death wish, they could not become a Buddha anymore? Was he crazy? Chapter 393. Buddhahood abandonment death wish core formation. Up until now, the camp had 2 Jindan in total, Weisheng and Xieshan. Zhongru undergoing core formation was unexpected by everyone. Weisheng's core formation was caused by the condensation of his sword heart after killing something, and Xieshan's core formation was an innate change due to power. Zhongru's talent could only be called normal. While his cultivation was not bad, but he had not accumulated power on the level that Xieshan had. Zhongru, who was not the most outstanding in any area, was the third to undergo core formation. Shocked, everyone naturally spread out and raised their guard to defend against the fiendish mist that would come and disturb Zhongru. After seeing 2 core formations, everyone was familiar with the apparitions during core formation. In the sky above Zhongru's tent was an enormous shadow that was like a faint ball of mist. The mist flowed and twisted as though something was struggling inside. When everyone raised their heads to look at the enormous shadow in the air, they all expressed shock. As the mist appeared, a faint presence covered everyone's minds like a little mountain. The only ones that could keep their composure were Weisheng and Xieshan. But even these 2 had nervous expressions. If core formation failed, the lightest consequence was injury and the degradation of cultivation. The most serious was loss of life. Roar. A sound that was like a dragon and elephant thundered through the depths of the shadows like waves. Irregular ripples formed in the air like ripples in water. Everyone guarding the surroundings felt their ears ring as though something had exploded by their ears. Those with deep cultivation wavered, and those that were of lower cultivation paled, and took multiple steps back. Only at this time did a hard wave of wind reach everyone. Wish power. A Buddhahood abandonment death wish. How long has it been since I've seen such pure and extreme wish power? In Wei's deep pupils, there seemed to be something flashing. Pu Yao looked at the continuously changing mist in the sky, as a hint of trepidation flashed through his mind. Wish power. A taste that he had almost forgotten. But when it appeared again, that familiar trepidation once again appeared. In that great war 3,000 years ago, he had fought against many Diana Xiao. Of course, there were Diana Xiao that possessed wish power. Diana Xiao that possessed wish power were enemies that all Yao did not want to encounter. It didn't matter if it was Yao arts or Mo skills, there were many malicious and evil techniques he could think of. But if Pu Yao had to pick out the 10 most malicious powers, wish power was definitely among them. Wish power did not have any connection with the cultivation level of the Diana Xiao. It was a power that could permeate all kinds of Ling power. It was only connected with the wish inside the heart of the wisher. The more determined the wisher's belief was, the stronger the wish power was. In the legends, if the Diana Shio who made a wish could complete the oath they gave, they could become a Buddha. The strongest belief of every Diana Shio was to become a Buddha. A death wish was a wish that could not be completed. Buddhahood abandonment death wish was when the Diana Shio made the cruelest and harshest oath, and because of this, of all the kinds of wish power, Buddhahood abandonment death wish was the most extreme wish power. No one wanted to be enemies that had made a Buddhahood abandonment death wish. If one touched this terrifying wish power, it would directly damage their soul. And this damage was almost irreparable. It was a synonym for death. Luckily, not every Diana Shio could make wishes. Otherwise, the great battle in the past would not have lasted for long. In reality, it was rare to find Diana Shio that could receive wish power. And of those the Diana Shio that could make a Buddhahood abandonment death wish, even Pu Yao hadn't seen more than 5. But they actually encountered one here. Pu Yao and Wei were frightened. Of the entire campsite, in terms of who was most shocked, it would undoubtedly be Yi Zheng. Coming from the great Buddha temple, Yi Zheng was from an orthodox and famed sect. But at this time, he was gaping as he looked at the sky, his entire mind a mess. Dropped into this ghastly place, what he had seen in these short months had completely upset everything he had learned on the mountain. When he had seen Wei Sheng the first time, he was awed by the other's talent and felt that he, in comparison, had achieved nothing. However, he never would have thought that it was just the beginning. Everything that followed was so fantastical it was like a dream. A guy who was of similar age to him was the leader of thousands of people, and everyone was strangely loyal. In a place called Golden Crow Camp, everyone had a 4th grade Golden Crow fire seed. He had almost gone insane then. Could that fire seed be made wholesale? In a place called Vermilion Bird Camp, everyone there were battle maniacs. Even their gaze when they walked by were like blades. Yi Zheng was a greenhorn. He did not know how strong these people were, but the presence exuded by these people made his heart beat wildly. A place called Guard Camp had its doors locked all day. However, there would occasionally be the sounds of howling like wild beasts and battle coming from inside. Every time he passed by, he would uncontrollably shake. There was one that rested all day hugging the sword. One that held a black spear and killed all day without any weariness. Little people that could fly, and mischievous pagoda. All kinds of weird, strange, and impossible things were found here. We are from Great Buddha Temple. We are Diana Shio. We won't compete with you on strangeness. Yi Zheng repeatedly comforted himself in multiple nights. But today he saw with his own eyes a Diana Shio's core formation. Saw a Diana Shio give a wish. Saw a Diana Shio give a Buddhahood abandonment death wish. And consequently, he completely broke down. Who is the Diana Shio here? Great Buddha Temple, one of the 10 Diana Shio holy grounds. He knew of 3 that had wish power, the Shirshu from the Discipline Hall, the Ancestral Forefather, and 7th Shirgu. Buddhahood abandonment death wish. Oh, the stuff of legends, it's good to hear about it. But why did it have to appear in front of him? Yi Zheng suddenly felt that the glittering sigh of the great Buddha temple was still dazzling in front of this unorthodox Diana Shio, but for some unknown reason, its presence had lessened greatly. All hail the Buddha. Yi Zheng grabbed his head with his hands and looked dazedly at the dark shadow gradually forming in the sky. A blurry shadow gradually formed above the camp. The enormous slave transporting boats in the face of this figure's foot was like a toe. The shadow was like an ancient giant looking down at the world. Everyone in the camp without exception inhaled sharply. An endless presence came at them like a tsunami. Wei Sheng showed a grave expression. He stepped forward, and gestured in a circle and swiped with his fingers. Everyone felt the presence oppressing their bodies instantly lessen, and their terror-filled expressions eased slightly. Wei Sheng and Xieshan exchanged a look. Both had grave expressions. The 2 of them had detected the unusualness of Zhongru's core formation. Moo. The blurry giant suddenly raised its head and bellowed. The sound traveled far in all directions. Waves of motion came from the depths of the fiendish mist. The giant's blurry figure continued to change. Zhua Mo, who was going through the dance of falling maples prison battlefield, did not know of the enormous noise at the campground. This time, he did not activate the prison-breaking battle, and he sighed in relief. If he activated the prison-breaking battle again, then he would want to smash his head of a wall. He thought of how much endless trouble breaking vast water-clear skies had been. With money in his hand, Swordsmanship did not want trouble. These things might also be money, but they were not as likable as Jingshi. In any case, Ji couldn't waste it. The prison battlefield of the Dance of Falling Maple was primarily based on killing illusions. Swordsmanship felt good after using bone-crushing obscuring wind. Powerful Yao arts only worked if they were used frequently. Swordsmanship clearly detected that he could use bone-crushing obscuring wind now. Swordsmanship quickly was not satisfied with purely using bone-crushing obscuring wind. He started to try to change Yao arts. Suddenly thinking of the feeling he caught at the last moment in the battle against Mo Ruhua, Swordsmanship's eyes suddenly lit up. The door created by blue and green vines twined together released a serene light. This was a Yao door. The Xiuzha had their transportation formations. The Yao had their Yao doors. The Mo had their blood pools. They were going home. Looking at the Yao door, Mushi's thoughts flowed. She couldn't say how she felt after being able to safely return home after fighting for several years. Before this campaign, she had never left home for so long. Thinking about how her mother had cried until she was made of tears when she had been preparing, her heart felt sore. Returning in victory, this was the only part she felt was worth it. From a young age, her talent was not very eye-catching among the youths of the clan. It was only when she began to study being a battle general that her talent was seen. It had been unexpected that the chance to represent the Wood clan had landed on her head. The clan leader's order had created many doubting voices. It had to be known that of all military commanders, she was the youngest. Fortunately, she had not failed. Even though there were no great achievements, there were not any failures. "Let's go," she said serenely. Just at this time, a Yao that was wearing the military uniform hurried past. Mushi recognized this Yao. The other was an intermediate-level battle general at the front line of the Bloody Sky metropolis Jia. Mushi had once met him. The other's expression was panicked and had slight terror. Mushi's heart suddenly jumped. "Meng Zongdaran," she called the other. Meng Zhang's steps paused. He finally saw Mushi like he had woken up from a dream. "It's Mushi Daran." To any battle general, the skill to remain calm was the most fundamental of all fundamentals. Seeing the other so uncomposed, the bad feeling inside grew. She asked in a light voice, "Has something happened?" Zhang Meng's expression changed. His eyes suddenly became slightly red, his voice hoarse. The front lines were defeated. Ah! Mushi and her vice commander's expression changed dramatically. 3 days ago, small numbers of Xiuzha appeared on the outskirts of the defensive line. We sent out little teams to clean out the area. We quickly received news that the teams were surrounded and were asking for aid. Yan Shangdaran led the troops to give aid. But the other took the chance to attack the defense line. The attack was strong. Yan Shangdaran was ambushed on the way back to give aid. The fierce fire corps were completely killed. Yan Daran has also given his life in sacrifice. The troops that went to give aid to Yan Shangdaran were also ambushed and lost great numbers. Meng Zhan's voice was sorrowful. Mushi's face suddenly became as white as paper. Chapter 394. Speculation. When the news of the defeat at the front line reached the rear, all were shocked. This was the first defeat the Yao had suffered after the war began. The losses were so severe they surpassed imagination. In the previous battles, the Yao military forces had advanced smoothly. The Xiuzha hadn't just retreated out of Bloody Sky metropolis Jia. They had also lost multiple Jia. But looking at it with a calm eye now, the Xiuzha had not been truly wounded at all. What they had lost were just the lowest level of sex, and the true elite had not suffered losses at all. In this defeat, the Yao casualties were all combat Yao above the stage of spirit planting. Normal Yao and combat Yao were spirit planting stage, but there was an enormous difference in ability. This was not as evident when it was a small skirmish, but the difference would certainly show in mass combat. Even if it was the local militia, they needed to training for at least 5 years to form preliminary combat abilities. Even more, Fierce Fire Corps was a regular corps commanded directly by the Council of Elders. None one had expected the Xiuzha's counterattack was so ferocious and decisive. When they attacked, It was like thunder. When the situation at the front lines were good, the mood at the rear was very relaxed, but with the news of the defeat the mood of the rear instantly became tense. The fierce fire corps of Yanshangdaran were famed for their ferocity. They were completely defeated. Then how strong was the power of the enemy? The Yao finally remembered that the Xiuzha had possessed bloody sky metropolis Jia for 3,000 years. 3,000 years. Even if bloody sky metropolis Jia was not suited for Xiuzha to fight, they would still be as familiar with that place like it was their backyard. The light on his hand flashed continuously. Zuomo was very careful. Pia, the light disappeared. Zuomo shook his head. It still didn't work. He tried to recall the feeling he captured with the tactile knowledge grip that day, and seemed to comprehend something, but he could not describe it. He knew this was due to not having a deep enough understanding. That barely discernible understanding needed more accumulation. It seemed that he needed to go find Little Red soon. The pitiful Mo Ru Ho was a pretty famous character, but due to his completely red body, Zuomo intimately called him Little Red. If he heard this nickname he would probably go insane immediately. He had been planning to use the prison battlefield to practice his Yao arts. Now that he did not have any ideas, Zuomo did not decide to procrastinate any further. As long as he did not activate the prison-breaking battle, passing through was still pretty easy for him. He quickly received the qualification to enter the third prison. He thought he had spent enough time in the 10-finger prison today. His consciousness swept across the spiritual imprint. He found that Songzhe and Nanyu were both present, and headed to the Wasteland Beast chessboard. When Zuomo found Songzhe and Nanyu, he found the two were dejected and had worried expressions. "What is it?" Zuomo asked in puzzlement. "Has something happened?" Songzhe narrated the news of the loss at the front lines in a low voice. At the side, Nanyu showed worry. They lived in the Yao world. If the Yao army were defeated, their lives would become even worse. They had just seen hope. If the Yao world became destabilized, would anyone remain unaffected? After Songzhe finished, Zuomo was stunned where he stood, with only shock left inside. After a long time he came back. His first response was, how was it possible? He had personally seen the great strength of the Yao army. Sky Moon Jia, Little Mountain Jia. When hadn't the Xiuzha retreated continually? Those large sects retreated when they heard of the advance of the Yao army and ran back to Bright Wave Jia like homeless dogs. After that, Zuomo had lost complete confidence in Kunlun. Even the present Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp in Zuomo's eyes could not compare to the elite forces of the Yao army. Now he was hearing Songzhe say that the Yao army had been defeated by the Xiuzha. The Yao military that was so powerful was actually defeated? And defeated right in front of their own doorstep? When he heard that the total death count reached 12,000, Zuomo didn't know what to say. So the Xiuzha had powerful people too. He still didn't believe it, but he knew that Songzhe and Nanyu definitely would not try to con him. Such a dazzling victory completely upended Zuomo's impression of the fragility of those great sections. He suddenly realized the depths of those great sects were not as he had thought. But he couldn't help but have a strange feeling. The past week display of the Xiuzha was a stark contrast against this great victory. The two were so different they were like mud and clouds. Was it? Zuomo's eyes suddenly widened. His body froze and a wave of coldness rose from his spine. Pretend to be weak? The four words tore his mind like lightning. His expression changed. With multiple jia of territory, countless sects as the bait. It was insane. His mind blanked as he mindlessly murmured. If it really was so, then the one who planned this was a madman. An undoubted madman. Zuomo soullessly returned to the camp. The gray mist in the sky continuously retreated back towards the center. The figure of the giant continuously shrunk and became clearer. When it completely appeared, simultaneous inhales sounded in the camp again. An extremely weird giant floated in the sky, 20 zhang high like a little mountain. It had 3 heads that faced 3 directions, each with a different expression. There was one glaring angrily, one smiling slightly, and one with eyes closed in deep thought. The 6 arms were either making seals, or the pair of hands were together. Endless dignity was like an invisible wave that struck everyone's minds. staring at the colossal being in the sky. Yizheng's face was as pale as paper, his pupils scattered as he unconsciously murmured, "Dragon and elephant attainment." When Zuoyamo returned to the camp, Zhongru's core formation was in its ending stages. He looked towards where Zhongru was. He was first shocked and then he showed joy. However, this thread of joy was quickly shrouded by thick darkness. His face became extremely dark, and he called everyone to his tent. The mood inside the camp was extremely low. Everyone had terrible expressions. The news that Zuoyamo had brought from the 10-finger prison was a shock, and everyone was silent. "We are bait." Gongsun Cha narrowed his eyes as his finger gently swiped across his face. His bashful and shy face was completely frosty at this time. If this really is their plan, then they definitely have successive plans. Gongsun Cha continued to speak. His voice was cold like the collision of ice cubs. His autumn-like pupils were filled with murderousness. A person who is able to make such a scheme definitely would not just aim for this kind of small victory. "Damn it!" Xieshan bellowed, his eyes sprouting fire and his features twisted. The other Xiozha who came out of Little Mountain Jia had completely red eyes. Not even 1 out 10 Xiozha had managed to survive Little Mountain Jia. No one experienced more than they did. Every one of them had crawling out of piles of corpses. No one doubted Gongsun Cha's speculation. Sword essence flowed in Wei Sheng's black eyes and his expression was black. He had felt things were strange when he had accompanied Lin Qian and his group to the Sword Cave. Every one of Lin Qian's bodyguards had exceptional power. With that kind of strength, why did they not defend Sky Moon Jia? It seemed more like they had given Sky Moon Jia to the Yao army. With the comparison now he understood. A strong fury and dislike instantly filled his chest. The sword essence in his body felt it and roiled as it wanted to burst out of his body. Kunlun governed the entire Kunlun territory. Every sect needed to pay taxes to Kunlun. A portion of their income had to flow towards Kunlun, turn to Jingshi, turn to materials for Kunlun disciples to cultivate, for Kunlun to use for daily expenditures. But killing essence flowed through the tent, and the mood was extremely low. Zuoyamo, who had been silent all this time, suddenly raised his face. As though nothing had happened, he gave a bright smile. "Everyone cultivate. If they really did this, there naturally will be chances to slowly settle our debts with them. Faster, faster. Accelerate. We must reach the defensive line within 48 hours. Every Yao soldier had tired expressions. They had received orders. In order to rush to Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia as fast as possible, they had almost used all their power. "General, we will reach Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia soon." As the corps commander of Ice Frost Crops, Lan was in his prime. 20 years ago, he had become a golden battle general. The 20 years of experience of commanding a troop had caused him to show hints of making a breakthrough. As one of the most influential people of the Water Clan, everyone speculated that he would have a good future. Lan had a cautious personality. His battle style was steady and he rarely made mistakes. The reason that the Elder Council sent him was in hopes that he could quickly stabilize the theater of war and prevent the collapse of the defensive line. Looking at the bloody mist that was endless in front of him, Lan was silent. The troops streamed past him and entered the bloody mist. His vice commander silently stood next to him and did not disturb him. "Do you know the origins of the Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia?" Lan asked. The vice commander respectfully said, 3,000 years ago, we were defeated. In order to halt the advance of the Xiozha, the 4 major Jia masters used their fleshly bodies in sacrifice, with 7 intermediate Jia as the axle, 49 little Jia as the screen, to create what is called Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia. Lan said emotionally, "Yes, born of our elders' blood and flesh. I hope they can protect us to safely return." The vice commander said in shock, "Does Darren have such a low outlook on our mission this time? The other definitely has more plans." Lan shook his head. The complete defeat of the Fierce Fire Corps is not an accident. The destruction of a corps is at least an intermediate scale battle. If they did not put in enough power, the other could not have completely killed the Fierce Fire Corps. The vice commander couldn't help but have a worried expression. He had followed his commander for many years. Darren would never speculate. Noticing the vice commander's expression, Lan said with a smile, "Don't be nervous. We will use earth to deal with water, generals to deal with soldiers. We just have to be more careful." "This subordinate thinks too much," the vice commander hurriedly replied. "Being more cautious is good." Lan was silent for a moment before he suddenly raised his head. A light flashed through his pupils. "Order. Collectively accelerate. We need to reach the defensive line in 24 hours. The vice commander apprehensively responded, "Yes." Chapter 395. Gold Battle. General Zhong Ru opened his eyes. The chaotic air turbulence around him instantly stopped, and a glowing light flashed and disappeared in his eyes. The skin on his face became extremely smooth. The weathering due to hard days in his past had disappeared. His appearance was not handsome and not exceptional in the campsite, but the Diana serene aura on his body was unique to him. It had to be said that the people of the camp were very unique. Wei Sheng's determination, Gong Sun Cha's insanity and viciousness hidden under bashfulness, Shu Long's steadiness, Ma Fan's laziness, etc. On Zhong Ru's clean forehead was a blood-red lotus. Two auras, one holy and one demonic, were merged together and filled with a soul-shaking power. He stood and slowly walked out of the tent. Old Ru, seeing Zhong Ru, Lei Peng and Nian Lu first stopped and then were overjoyed. The three of them had once been in a team and had a good relationship. While Zhong Ru had undergone his core formation, the two of them had stood guard outside the tent. "Lei Man, little Nian Nian." A sincere smile came onto Zhong Ru's face. Nian Lu's smile froze on his face, and the tendons in his forehead pulsed. Lei Peng laughed instead, and rushed in front of Zhong Ru, opening his eyes and giving a hard hug. "Old Ru, you did it. Secretly having your core formation. Isn't this forcing the rest of us to work hard?" Lei Peng's voice was like thunder, and exploded next to Zhong Ru's ear. Zhong Ru had a slight smile as he patted Lei Peng's back. Nian Lu's gaze swept across Zhong Ru and landed on Zhong Ru's face. His eyes suddenly lit up. "So core formation can make one more handsome. Excellent. No, I have to enter Jindan soon. I'm so handsome now. If I'm a Jindan, how handsome would I be? It is such a hard question." Hearing Nian Lu's narcissistic and nonsensical words, Zhong Ru's heart felt unspeakably warm. The news that Zhong Ru had come out made the entire camp erupt. The mood of the camp had been extremely heavy these past days. Zhong Ru's reappearance caused everyone to be filled with joy. Zhong Ru was humble and low-key usually. In this time, the people that came to congratulate him was endless. Compared to everyone's worry when Xie Shan had his core formation, everyone was extremely calm this time. When Zhong Ru saw Zhua Mo and the others, he hurriedly walked forward. He made a deep bow and said respectfully, "Darren." A smile came onto Zhua Mo's face, and he unhesitatingly went forward to give Zhong Ru a hard hug. Just as Zhong Ru was very moved, Darren muttered in a small voice next to his ear, "You have to work hard on the healing techniques of Attainment Golden Body. There is so many people in the camp. Think how much Jingshur we can save when the time comes." "Darren, we cannot sustain this." The vice commander's expression was fragile and his voice bitter and burdened. Lan's face was unaffected. "How many have we lost?" "Another 200 were just killed, 300 wounded." The vice commander had a terrible expression when he reported the numbers. In the short 8 hours since they stepped into the bloody sky metropolis Jia, they had encountered 6 waves of attack. Up until now, fatalities reached more than 1,000 people, more than 1/10 of the entire corps. The others' attacks were extremely fierce and unpredictable. They seemed to be able to move without restriction in bloody sky metropolis Jia. No one knew how they were able to do this. The blood sky metropolis Jia was the battlefield suited for Yaoma, yet they were suppressed in this place. But the Xiuzha who attacked them seemed to be unaffected at all, and were at great ease. How was the other able to do this? Lan gazed into the distance and asked, "How long until we can reach the defensive line?" "The others' attacks have slowed our advancement." Lan interrupted the vice commander and asked sternly, "How long?" The vice commander's heart shook. He gritted his teeth and said, "At this speed, we will only reach the line after 96 hours. Lan was silent for a moment before he said in a deep voice, "Gather the other Darren." Yes. The vice commander heeded the order. Moments later, the 9 officers hurried over. Their expressions were all bad. In 8 short hours, 1/10 of their forces had been killed. This kind of attrition rate made their hearts beat rapidly. Based on this speed, their numbers would be expended before they reached the defensive line. Lan's gaze swept across the 9 officers. Their faces were terrible, but not panicked. He had personally promoted all 9 commanders who had outstanding skills. Military positions had very strict requirements. For a regular corps like the Ice Frost Corps, the corps commander must be a gold battle general, and the officers had to be silver battle generals. I need one that is willing to go to his death. Lan did not waste words and directly said it. The 9 officers all changed expressions. From Darren's words, they could surmise the state of the situation. Darren's gaze made them feel there was a blade at their back. But they hesitated. At this time, a youth stood out. "Darren, this subordinate is willing." Lan's expressionless face imperceptibly twitched. He looked closely at the youth and his heart couldn't help but hurt. This youth that had become a silver battle general at the age of 20 had a limitless potential, and one of his favored commanders. Liang Wei belonged to one of the side branches of the Water Clan. His results in the Yao Art House had been average until he had turned to study as a battle general, where his results shot up. When he was 20, he had successfully passed the exam of a silver battle general. Even though he was not eye-catching compared to the little monsters of the Yao world, Lan still felt that his future was limitless. Liang Wei stood upright, full of bravery. Lan could not refuse at this time. He nodded. "I will give you 3,000 combat Yao. Take up the rear, sweep the flanks of the troop, and stop the attacks." The other officers had complex expressions. From the harassment they had endured in the last 8 hours, they could predict just how great the pressure Liang Wei would face. Liang Wei calmly accepted and made a bow towards Lan. "If I die in combat, Darren, please give some care to my clansmen." "I will," Lan gravely replied. He turned to the other officers and said in a deep voice, "Proceed at full speed. Military law for those that slow down." "Yes." The officers all shook. Wei gazed at the development of the battle situation. He felt great shock at the combat capabilities that Gongsun Cha showed. The battle had been at a standstill for 2 whole days. Wei saw a rare seriousness on Pu Yao's face. After interacting for several thousand years, no one could rival his understanding of Pu Yao. When his previous owner had been the corps commander, all of the strategic decisions had come from Pu Yao. Pu Yao was forced to such a state by such a young guy. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he definitely would not believe it. From the start of this war chess match, he had watched as the two fought without a moment of inattention. He had sighed in amazement many times throughout. The eye-dazzling fighting had caused him to exclaim. The time rate of war chess was much faster than regular time. The span of 2 days was equivalent to a whole month inside the match. He did not understand battle generals. At every dangerous moment, his heart couldn't help but jump. He had thought hundreds of times inside. How could they be so devious? Even though the advantage of the match was in Pu Yao's hands, but Wei put more of his attention of Gongsun Cha. Such a young person that was able to resist Pu Yao for so long, his skill definitely was not low. Gradually, the balance began to tilt, and the Pu Yao's advantage had grown. Pu Yao's sweeping attacks in the final stages of battle were, in Wei's view, this guy venting for having lost face. As expected, when Pu Yao came out of the war chess, his expression was not good. A very powerful young person. Wei's words were slightly pouring salt onto the wound. Pu Yao's expression became even uglier, but he seemed to think of something and his expression instantly recovered. He said proudly, "Don't give young people too much praise. This is not good for his improvement." Wei stilled. He reacted very quickly. "He is my student." Pu Yao showed a smug and sly smile. "How about it? Give a review." Wei really was stunned this time. "He is also your student? What about Sui Mo? Why can't I have 2 students?" Pu Yao glanced at Wei, his tone filled with smugness and showiness. "I have good eyes for judging people. strong. Wei's praise seemed sincere. Of course. Pu Yao was even more smug. Nothing needs to be said of Zuoremo. That guy is a weirdo that even I don't understand. Gong Sun Cha is born to be a battle general. Ha, a 20-year-old gold battle general. He'll frighten those old guys to death. Gold battle general? Wei was frightened. He stammered out. That little guy is a gold battle general? Wei's display made Pu Yao's smugness reach a peak. His devious and cunning face seemed to glow at this moment. Definitely a gold battle general. I jumped in fright this time when he attacked. If I wasn't careful, I would have lost. TSK, a scripture he comprehended himself. 20-year-old gold battle general. As expected of one that I taught from the beginning. Most importantly, Pu Yao suddenly closed his mouth and did not speak. Wei unconsciously asked, "What is it?" Ha 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 ha. He did not just inherit my skills as a battle general, but also my handsome appearance. On this point, Zuoremo lacks a lot. Wei looked wordlessly at Pu Yao. Gong Sun Cha's mood was terrible to the bone. He had originally thought that after just having a breakthrough, he could rival the mystery person. Who knew that he had lost again? Even though he knew he could not rival the other, but he disliked failure, extremely disliked it. After swallowing the fiend's soul beast bead, he had just reached the border of a breakthrough. Just at this time, Zuoremo had given him a golden soul and successfully allowed him to make a breakthrough. The strong confidence brought by the breakthrough caused him to unhesitatingly challenge Pu Yao, but it still ended in defeat. Thinking about how he had never beat the other once, his mood became even worse. The speculation about being bait made him even angrier. With his understanding of Shixiang, even though Shixiang had said it easily that day, he definitely would not give up inside. They would get even. As the battle general, he would undoubtedly play the most crucial part. He could not fail. Craziness flashed through Gong Sun Cha's eyes. A daring and insane idea quickly formed in his mind. Chapter 396 News. The high temperatures produced by the white-hot Samadhi truth fire twisted everything in his field of vision. Staring at the remnants of the defensive line burning, Liang Wei's vision darkened. He viciously bit down and stopped himself from collapsing. He forcibly steadied himself as he tasted blood, but tears uncontrollably left his eyes. Liang Wei and the soldiers beside him were covered in wounds. Their blood-covered clothing was torn everywhere. He could not remember how many attackers he had killed on the way here, but he had been resilient and managed to block them from attacking the larger troop. In the end, to prevent the enemy attacks from their rear, he had resolutely led the troops as the rear guard. They had traveled 12 hours behind the rest of the troop. Liang Wei's face was covered in tears and was like a wooden puppet. Looking at the flames that rose into the sky and rampaged, his body became increasingly cold. A long while later, the wails and cries of his compatriots became clear in his ears. He looked blankly at the grieving comrades around him. His scattered gaze gradually became bright. He bit down hard on his lips and wiped away the tears. He turned around, his hoarse voice full of resolve as he said, "Let's go." Go? Go where? The combat Yao under his command raised their grieving and empty eyes. To get revenge, Liang Wei said without turning his head. Zuoremo had been in the 10-finger prison in the past few days, not the third prison, but the Wasteland Beast chessboard. The bounty for information had been posted, and what remained was to patiently wait. At the same time, he was waiting for the results of another matter. Gong Sun Shidi's speculation was stuck in his heart like a thorn. Everyone in the camp was waiting for the result. According to Gong Sun Shidi's speculation, it would be quickly proven. It may have been caused by this matter that Zuoremo was disinterested in everything, even lacking interest in studying new Yao arts. Suddenly, Zuoremo noticed Songzhe arrive with an ugly expression. Darren, the newest information. The front lines were defeated again. Ice Frost Corps were almost completely destroyed. Less than 600 people remain. Songzhe's voice was trembling. His heart was filled with terror. When Darren had told him to pay attention to news from the front line, he had found it puzzling. But when he heard this news, he was frightened. He suddenly found that Darren was standing in a daze. How does Darren find out news about the outside? Nian Lu pressed his voice low and asked. Darren is like a ghost and doesn't know. Lei Peng said in what was not a good tone. It's not like you don't know how much of a monster Darren is. Nian Lu nodded, repeated. Yes. However, I get angry just thinking about it. Those great sects are not good. We need to cultivate and get even. As a handsome person, I cannot swallow this breath. Lei Peng showed an understanding and devious smile. Don't worry. Darren has said that he will take us and settle the odds. I'm telling you in secret, Lil Miss Darren privately said that it probably is people from Kunlun that did this. Kunlun. Nian Lu was shocked and then furious. It is actually Kunlun. Don't worry. There's no need to worry even if it is Kunlun. Lei Peng's expression was twisted as he smiled and said, Darren said, if you have something of ours, spit it out. If you dug a trap for us, we'll dig one for you. Little Nian, go cultivate. Even old Ru is a Jindan. It's not easy to live if we aren't Jindan in the future. Everyone wants to have a core formation. Is the core that easy to form? Nian Lu murmured. Shouldn't core formations be achieved according to the degree of handsomeness? Coming out of the 10-finger prison, Zuemo walked out of the camp with a fire in his chest. The Xiuzha in the camp crisscrossed around busily, but looking at this busy scene, Zuemo's heart did not calm down but became even more irritated. He walked aimlessly out of the camp. Walking out of the campsite, and losing the barrier provided by the campsite formations, the fiendish mist rushed towards him. The thick fiendish energy inside the fiendish mist made his raging fire grow even greater. Nearby, there were Xiuzha from Vermilion Bird Camp that were cultivating. The fiendling that they cultivated needed to use the power of the fiendish energy. Zuemo did not disturb them and walked forward. At this moment, his heart was full of the impulse to destroy. Without thinking, he charged into the depths of the fiendish mist. The presence of danger increased, but he did not seem to detect it, and his steps did not slow. Several fiend soul beasts silently stalked him. In the black-red fiendish mist, several dark red pairs of eerie eyes tightly locked onto Zuemo. Without noticing, Zuemo had walked at least 300 li from the camp. This distance far surpassed the camp's usual cultivation and living area. Even guard camp would not go outside 100 li of the camp. A fiend soul beast could not resist any longer. With a roar, he charged at Zuemo. The accumulated rage and savagery inside Zuemo were ignited at this moment. Go die. His eyes suddenly became red. He did not dodge. Facing the charge of the fiend soul beast, he punched out. The fiend soul beast had not expected Zuemo to be so courageous, and did not have the time to dodge. Bam! The two figures were like two arrows that flew apart. The fiend soul beast's enormous body flew back with even faster speed, and Zuemo was like a ball hit by a stick that smashed heavily into the ground. The other fiend soul beasts saw the chance and unhesitatingly leapt over. Pia pia pia. With sounds like that of a whip, the fiend soul beasts that leapt over all flew backwards. Zuemo's body floated up. A suit of dark golden armor stood proudly. The bright red eyes were filled with murderousness, his entire body exuding viciousness and savagery like a demon that walked out of hell. The fiend soul beasts showed wariness. They crouched down and continued to growl. Their dark red eyes stared at Zuemo, but they did not dare to move forward. Zuemo raised his murderous eyes, and his figure disappeared from his spot. The fiend soul beasts were alarmed and scattered. Suddenly, an armored hand appeared on the forehead of a fiend soul beast. This hand pressed it down. The fiend soul beast felt an enormous power pass over. It was unable to move. Now it became panicked. It growled urgently, its forelimbs furiously tearing at the ground to try to resist this terrifying hand. Zuemo's left hand did not move a sliver. He raised his right hand and formed a fist. Go die. Zuemo bellowed. Brutality increased in his completely red eyes. The right hand heavily smashed onto the head of the fiend soul beast. Bam. The fiend soul beast's body froze. Go die. Bam. Go die. Bam. The berserk Zuemo bellowed as his fist rained down on the head of the fiend soul beast. Gradually, the body of this fiend soul beast became blurry. Bam. Zuemo's fist penetrated the head of the fiend soul beast and struck the ground. It instantly smashed a large hole in the ground. The body of the fiend's soul beast completely disappeared, leaving behind a black fang and a fiend's soul beast bead. The seemingly insane Zhuemo made the other fiend's soul beasts feel a threat of terror. While this fiend's soul beast was smashed to nothingness by Zhuemo, they did not dare to go forward. Zhuemo did not look at his spoils of victory. He raised his head and slowly stood. His gaze swept towards the other fiend soul beasts. The fiend soul beasts that encountered his gaze all retreated without exception. You should all die. The dark and icy voice came out of Zhuemo's chest. Before his words landed, his figure disappeared again. The fiend soul beasts were alarmed and scattered, fleeing in all directions. Zhuemo's figure seemed to appear out of thin air beside a fiend soul beast. Just like the previous one, his hand grabbed the head of this fiend soul beast. He hadn't expected this fiend soul beast to be unusually clever. Its figure changed and it escaped Zhuemo's grip. A red light suddenly flashed across the dark red pupils of the fiend soul beast. Zhuemo suddenly felt a burst of dizziness. It was like he had entered the crevasse of a glacier. All the Ling power inside his body seemed to be frozen, and he was unable to move at all. The eyes of this fiend soul beast showed smugness and cruelty. Midair, its body twisted as though it had no bones and it turned to face Zhuemo. Its body crouched and jumped without needing to gather power. And like an arrow leaving the bowstring, it leapt at Zhuemo. The cold and sharp fangs and claws swiped out cold lights in the air. The lights flashed towards Zhuemo's throat. Suddenly, a fist appeared without warning in its field of vision, and dramatically enlarged. Boom! Like a large drum being struck, but also with a metallic clang. This fist firmly punched the fiend soul beast without any finesse. The moment the fist and its body touched, threads of mist roiled on the surface of its body. With speed even faster than just before, it flew backwards. Bam! Midair, a golden figure flashed, and the fiendish soul beast that was retreating immediately changed directions and smashed heavily into the ground. The ground trembled and dust flew up. When the dust dissipated, there were only a few spoils of victory left in the large hole. The other fiend soul beasts showed terror. They whined a few times before turning and fleeing. They did not lack intelligence to have survived and grown up in such a cruel and harsh place. Zhuemo's surroundings instantly became silent. Gradually, the blood slowly faded from Zhuemo's eyes. The angry and savagery inside was vented, and his mind became clear. With clarity came a strong feeling of exhaustion. His legs softened and he sat down on the ground. The sweat permeated his entire body. Weakness and softness came. He panted hard. Ha. His rushed breathing in his ears were like bellows. His heart gradually calmed down. Zhuemo had a grimace on his lips. It seemed that his resolve was not strong enough. Full of self-disdain, he couldn't help but think back to his journey. Without realizing it, he felt his heart was warmed. No matter how terrible the situation was, he would always have a crowd of people beside him, following him, fighting with him, risking their lives together with him. No matter how dangerous the future was, everyone was still supporting him, trusting him, following him, and protecting him. A slight smile on the corners of his mouth, his heart gradually became warm and calm. The sky full of fiendish mist in his eyes seemed to become an endless bright blue sky. A strong will silently birthed and spread inside. He balled his fists. When he raised his head again, the confusion had cleared and was replaced by strong will. After resting for a moment, Zhuemo found a terrible problem, and his face instantly fell. Damn it, how was he to return? At this time, a proud bird figure slowly stalked its bird walk and appeared in his vision. Chapter 397. Totem Fragments. Even though Silly Bird's gaze was still so proud, so discontent, but in front of Zhuemo's scoundrel-like and hoodlum laugh, there was nothing to do. Zhuemo used his arms and legs to climb onto Silly Bird's back and pretended to be dead. However, Zhuemo was muttering on the inside. After Silly Bird's strength had strangely skyrocketed, her personality had become even prouder. Adding on that all the little ones listened to her, she acted as the leader of them all, and completely forgot her actual profession as a steed, much less think of him, the owner. This could not be tolerated. Education could not be relaxed. Planning on educating Silly Bird, Zuemo was going to speak when he felt himself shoot up. His entire body was almost thrown off. With a shake, he hurriedly hugged Silly Bird's neck. When they were flying in the air, the feeling was completely different. It was like lightning. The wind blew so hard Zuemo could not open his eyes. Such an exhilarating speed caused Zuemo to be in a good mood. Hands tightly grabbing onto Silly Bird's slender neck, he raised his head and started to sing. I want to fly even higher. Fly even higher. Ah ah ah. The cymbal-like sound flew across the sky. Silly Bird's eyes looked back with unfriendliness and glanced maliciously at Zuemo, who was in a world of his own. Her wings suddenly flapped and she flew straight up. Ah ah ah. Zuemo's wail followed Silly Bird's acceleration as they floated up. When he dismounted from Silly Bird's back, his legs were as soft as noodles. His entire person was intoxicated as though he was drunk. Before he walked a few steps, he found all the little ones had come over, nudging and crowding intimately around Silly Bird. Like the moon surrounded by stars, Silly Bird didn't even look at Zuemo stalking her bird walk. She flounced off. That presence, that manner, it made Zuemo gape. Suddenly recalling what Silly Bird looked like before, Zuemo couldn't help but laugh. After shaking his head in self-mockery, he went into the tent. A Gue who was in the corner of the tent saw Zuemo come in, and the wooden and empty pupils seemed to become slightly more livelier. A Gue, have you rested well these days? Just like usual. Even though he knew that a Gue would not reply, Zuemo spoke to her as he took out his spoils. And when the tiny sound that was like that of an ant landed in Zuemo's ears and was akin to thunder, Zuemo's movements suddenly froze. He raised his head, and his face was filled with disbelief. The disbelief on his face rapidly turned to ecstasy. He shot in front of a Gue. A Gue. A Gue. You can speak? A Gue's face was wooden, her pupils empty, and she was unresponsive to Zuemo's words as though the sound of response had been Zuemo's delusion. That definitely had not been a delusion. Zuemo's eyes were filled with joy. Even though a Gue's body gradually shows signs of a good turn, but the response today was a breakthrough. A Gue, can you hear me speak? Zuemo slowed his talking speed and tried to make his tone warm. His eyes looked hard at a Gue's face. And it was another mosquito-sized response. It caused Zuemo to break out in a grin. He jumped up like a child and whooped. Ah! A Gue can talk. A Gue can talk. A slight ripple was produced in a Gue's empty pupils. After celebrating, Zuemo inspected a Gue's body. He quickly found that the purple energy inside a Gue's body had grown. The purple energy inside a Gue's body was the decisive change, and surely had an effect in a Gue's recovery. But this purple energy was extremely dark and unpredictable. Even Puyao did not know of its origins. Even weirder was that Zuemo could not sense any signs of life from the purple energy. It was the extreme opposite. It was dark, varied, and filled with destructiveness, the presence of death. Theoretically, such a strange power should bring death, so how come it could make a Gue recover? Even though he did not understand, Zuemo couldn't help but ponder the purple energy. How could he increase the strength of the purple energy? This thought flashed through Zuemo's mind. Calming down, Zuemo suppressed the urgency inside. He had to be cautious with this matter. A Gue's body was extremely delicate. Any change, and there was a possibility the body could shatter into pieces. Those two sounds of response seemed to have taken great energy from a Gue. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. Seeing her state, Zuemo hurriedly quieted down and carefully laid her down. After thinking for a long time, Zuemo finally returned his attention to his spoils. This time, he had killed 2 fiend soul beasts, and the spoils that remained were slightly strange. It was strange, because there was something else other than the fiend soul beast bead, and the remnants of limbs. It was a piece of metal about the size of a fingernail. There were some special patterns on the surface of the piece. Zuemo felt the patterns were like seal scripts. This piece was left behind by the fiend soul beast that froze his Ling power. The composition of the metal was extremely unique. Zuemo could not say what it was made out of, and had never seen the scripts on it before. Luckily, there was an old antique from 3,000 years ago with him. Pooh, do you recognize this? Puyao sprouted out. and grabbed the piece from Zhuomo's hand. Putting it on front of his eyes and studying it, his expression was grave as he shook his head. I can see it is something ancient, but I don't know what it actually is. Zhuomo was not shocked. If this really was the sealed extinction battlefield, it was normal to not recognize something from tens of thousands of years ago. Can I have a look? Wei suddenly spoke. Pu Yao glanced at Wei and threw the fragment in his hand over. Wei received it, put it in front of him, and closely inspected it. This is a fragment of a totem. In order to be preserved until now, it should be the best part of the totem. The patterns on it is a kind of ancient totem. Wei's black eyes flashed with an unique light. Ancient totem? Zhuomo had a shocked expression. It is a kind of primitive seal script, Wei explained. In ancient times humans Yao or Emo lived in tribes. They gradually formed their own beliefs and totems were born from that. The Xiuzhi scripts were developed from totems. However, the two have core differences. Seal scripts are the changes of Ling power, while totems are related to Ling power. They are related more to sacrificial offerings. Sacrificial offering? Sacrificial offerings are the most important matters of each tribe. When Wei spoke to this, he suddenly said, I cannot explain the reason behind this. But this was enough for Zhuomo and Pu Yao to feel shock. The person and the Yao exchanged a look and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Wei could speak so much about such ancient matters. What was this guy's true origins? Then what is the use of this totem fragment? Zhuomo raised the fragment in his hand and asked what he was most concerned about. Wei said, the best materials that each tribe could find were used to make totems. Other than being made of extraordinary material, it must have undergone countless years of sacrificial offerings to survive tens of thousands of years and not be destroyed. Maybe this fragment has Ling kernel. Has Ling kernel? Zhuomo's eyes lit up. He hurriedly channeled his spiritual power into the fragment in his hand, but when his consciousness was blocked on the outside, he was even happier. Ling kernel. It actually was Ling kernel. The stronger the material resisted, it mean the higher the grade of the Ling kernel of the material. Materials that had Ling kernels, no matter what material it was the best materials. Because the talismans that could be forged from it could have cognition. Talismans that had cognition meant they had room to grow, for example, Lil Pagoda. There were countless ways to substitute for the poor quality of a material, but Ling kernel was something that was a matter of chance. He had picked up a treasure. Zhuomo suddenly became excited. He was just saying, how could such a big and ancient battlefield not leave behind anything good? He understood now. The fiendish energy of this place was so thick that the fiend soul beasts born were intelligent. If there was anything good, they could not have escaped the eyes of these fiend soul beasts. It seemed the good stuff of this ancient battlefield had been divided up by the fiend soul beasts. Zhuomo's eyes flashed greedily, and his drool escaped the corner of his mouth. If this was the case, they only needed to focus on the fiend soul beasts. Thinking about the endless fiendish mist, and the abundant fiend soul beasts. Oh, heavens! Zhuomo's drool dripped. Those ugly fiend soul beasts suddenly became peerlessly adorable in his eyes. The prizes of hunting fiend soul beasts were only remnants of limbs and fiend soul beasts. Supposedly, those remnants could be used to make Emo weapons, but for Zhuomo right now, there wasn't any big uses. Fiend soul beast beads were slightly useful, but were unable to stir Zhuomo's interest. But right now, the totem fragment was enough to move Zhuomo's heart and upend his soul. What could materials with Ling kernels be used for? Making talismans. Who wouldn't want many talismans? Who wouldn't want many good talismans? Also, Zhuomo knew that everyone in the camp was hunting the fiend soul beast for practice. TSK, able to increase combat experience, able to increase cultivation, and able to get good things. Such a good opportunity, where else could he find it? He suddenly recalled that everyone had killed many fiend soul beasts these days. Then in the spoils, like his boat was on fire, he rushed out and headed for Bao Yi. The pitiful Bao Yi was frightened when he saw Zhuomo. When he heard Zhuomo ask about the spoils from hunting fiend soul beasts, he hurriedly pointed them out. Seeing the items piled up in the corner like garbage, Zhuomo instantly felt pain in his heart. He quickly found 2 more totem fragments from the pile. So risky. Pearls in the dust. He was full of self-blame. Hadn't ever thought that in little Mog. Almost let something good slip by. He then gravely instructed Bao Yi to take good care of these things, especially fragments like what he had. Bao Yi was clever. Seeing the pain on Boss' face, cold sweat instantly poured down and he agreed frantically. Coming out of Bao Yi's place, Zuo instantly ran to Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp to pass down the instructions regarding the totem fragments. If someone threw away the totem fragments like garbage, he wouldn't even have the time to cry. After doing all this, he finally relaxed and started to ponder another problem. What talismans could be forged from this? Chapter 398. The new mood of Golden Crow Camp. Speaking of forging, Zuo had not done it for a very long time. In the past, he had needed to rely on the power of talismans. He had an unorthodox background in forging, but he did have a powerful weapon in Golden Crow Fire. Adding on that he had practiced arduously, his handiwork was relatively good. When his cultivation path had leaned towards emphasizing Great Day Mo physique later on, the time spent practicing forging and dan-making had naturally been reduced. Rawness was one factor, and the other was the lack of high-level forging techniques. This caused him to not know what talisman to forge with the totem fragments on hand, even though he had a 6th-grade flame, the Great Day Striped Flame. Also, these totem fragments were great materials, but he wasn't familiar with them at all. After wavering for a while, Zuo still decided to go to Golden Crow Camp. The campsite of Golden Crow Camp was completely different than others. Only they had set up camp on a slave transporting boat. The entire interior of the slave transporting boat had been completely remodeled. It wasn't just the layout that was completely different. Almost all the formations had been changed. Every board of the ship had been carved with large and small formations. Right now, the structural integrity of this slave transporting boat was frightening. This group of people were extremely bored yet also scared of death. So they used everything they could think of to ensure this boat as their lifesaver. At the very center of the boat was the most important talisman of this slave transporting boat, the Crimson Fiend Cauldron. The present Crimson Fiend Cauldron had shrunk to the height of a person. The cauldron had also turned from crimson red to jet black. Its design had been simple to start with, and now it seemed even denser and dignified. The Crimson Fiend Cauldron had continuously tempered itself, and now showed signs that it was going to level up. At the present, the Crimson Fiend Cauldron had become the heart of this slave transporting boat. Every day, it turned large amounts of fiendish energy into Ling power, and passed the Ling power through the dense spiderweb formations to every corner of the slave transporting boat. Some Ling plant farmers decided to just stay in the rooms and plant Ling grains together. The beast speakers, led by Chun Yucheng, raised all kinds of Ling beasts in the boat. It was possible to hear the calls of all kinds of Ling beasts and very busy workers. Everyone loved this boat. The density of Ling energy inside the slave transporting boat could compare to some secret paradises. What satisfied everyone the most was the atmosphere inside the boat, especially after Zuo had assigned the study of Mo matrices to Golden Crow Camp. The seal shio that had originally been in Vermilion Bird Camp had been moved here to study Mo matrices together. These production shioja were not as fearless as combat shioja, but they had more skills. Additionally, the mood of the Golden Crow Camp was very liberal. The 2 masters, Ji Wei and Sun Bao, encouraged everyone to play around, so the youthfulness and liveliness of this group of young people were expressed to the maximum. In this place, every person could do what interested them. There was nothing that was forced upon them, but it was not easy if they just wanted to get by through slacking. One factor was that the mood was so, and everyone looked down upon those that slacked off. The other factor was beyond their basic needs. Every person's income and access to resources was based on their efforts. If one wanted more materials, wanted more spells, then work hard. So when Zuo visited Golden Crow Camp again, the completely new Golden Crow Camp stunned him. Fortunately, every still recognized boss. The 2 masters quickly hurried over. Darren. The 2 respectfully bowed. Their cultivations had improved greatly and reached the later stages of Ningmai. Zhuo looked at the two people and found that their complexions were much better than they had been in the past. Thinking about their cautious and timid conduct of the past, and looking at the steady presence of these two people, it was a completely different world. Zhuo said with a smile. It seems everyone is living pretty well. This place isn't actually bad, Sun Bao said with a smile. Everyone has something to do, the Ling power is abundant, and there is materials to waste. It's natural for us to live well. The two of them were very content with the present life. They were all people that were intoxicated with forging and very experienced. The spells and formations that Zhuo had given them could be said to be invaluable. Adding on the abundant Ling power inside the slave transporting boat, the two of them even felt indications of having a breakthrough. However, what made the two of them feel the most proud about was not their individual breakthroughs, but the growth of the entire Golden Crow camp. The good atmosphere, the abundant supplies, large amounts of spells as reference, and all kinds of novel problems had caused the youthful Xiozha of Golden Crow camp to grow at astounding speed. These young Xiozha of meager backgrounds did not waste such a valuable opportunity. Their efforts and hard work caused both masters to feel very comforted. Has Darren come for the golden-winged great rock? Jiwei asked. Master Jiawei's question reminded Zhuo. He hurriedly asked, how's the progress on the golden-winged great rock? We've only solved half. Jiwei said embarrassedly. The golden-winged great rock matrix is extremely complex. Our cultivation is not enough. Thankfully, with the addition of Li Zhuo, the rate of advancement quickened. Up until now, we have found 3 formations and they are wondrous. The two people's faces were bright. The wonders of the 3 formations had broadened their visions. The reason that the two of them showed signs of core formation was a benefit from comprehending these 3 formations. Zhuo had formed some impression of Li Zhuo. At Ningmai stage and he was able to forge second-grade seal soldiers. He was very talented. This is not urgent, we advance go slowly. Zhuo knew how complex the golden-winged great rock matrix was. In the past, he had studied it for a long time. He was already shocked at Jiwei and the others' advancement speed. He then stated the goal of his trip. I've come this time for another matter. The two hurriedly peaked their ears. Zhuo took out the totem fragments and handed them to the two. These are fragments of ancient totems that have remained over tens of thousands of years. They have formed Ling kernels. Ancient totem fragments. Ling kernels. The two paled. Zhuo's words instantly destroyed their mental barriers. These are good, but even the best stuff, if they cannot be used, are useless. Zhuo continued. I've come to find you to see what ways you guys have to forge them into talismans. Sun Bao and Jiwei stared at each other. After a while, Sun Bao hesitantly opened. Why doesn't Darren forge them? Such a precious treasure. It would be too much of a pity if it was ruined. Zhuo naturally would be ashamed to say that his skills had been lain to waste. However, facing the duo's worries, he said with a smile, don't worry about ruining them. After speaking, he took out 2 more pieces. The two instantly became dumbstruck. These might be valuable, but everyone should not be timid due to this, Zhuo said smugly. These have come from the bodies of the fiend soul beasts. We probably can get more in the future. Sun Bao and Jiwei's eyes instantly lit up. No forging Xiozha would not be moved when they heard this. You guys take it and study it. Zhuo gave each of them a totem fragment, and kept one for himself. He didn't want to lose a skill like forging that could earn Jingshi. If he became poor one day, he might have to rely on this to eat. Also, he had the 6th grade flame, Great Day striped flame. It would be too much of a pity if his forging skills were left to rust. He asked Sun Bao to find an empty room, and started to ponder it himself. Xiaomogu. Ming Yuzi, who was sweeping around the Yao city, saw this name, and his gaze couldn't help but still as he stopped walking. He had a surprised expression. To be able to see Xiao Moji's bounty on the Yao city of the 3rd Prezion. That meant that Xiao Mogu had already entered the 3rd prison. With Xiao Moji's strength, it did not surprise him that Xiao Mogu had entered the 3rd prison. What surprised him was that Xiao Mogu had put up a bounty of his own. Ming Juzi's first response was, "Is this guy wanted to retaliate against the Ji family?" His fingertips swiped across this bounty. The contents that opened up caused his to still. Battle of Seal Extinction? This extremely unfamiliar phrase caused Ming Juzi to not remember anything about it in a moment. A while later, he finally recalled some blurry impression about the Battle of Sealed Extinction. The curiosity in Ming Juzi's heart instantly rose. He hurriedly read on. Xiao Emoji's bounty desired information on the Battle of Sealed Extinction. The more specific, the better, and they could even talk face to face. He then looked at the reward. His heart instantly jumped. It was a very high number. This was an extremely strange bounty. The requirements of the bounty was very indistinct, just that the more specific the better. And the goal of the bounty was unusually obscure. A battle that happened in ancient times? Xiao Emogu was a historical enthusiast? This speculation was too funny. Did he have some treasure map of the Battle of Sealed Extinction? That was possible. If it was like that, then it was very probably that Xiao Emogu would put up such a bounty. Thinking about the results of his past investigation, Ming Juzi's heart suddenly started to burn. He had expended great energy to finally pin down what high-level Yao arts were used by Nanyu and Songzhe, South Sky Arrow art, and Gray Scar art. These two Yao arts that had been lost for a long time once again appeared in front of the word, and the crux of this entire matter all pointed to one Yao, Xiao Emogu. Maybe. Thinking about this, Ming Juzi decided to take this quest. Bowie felt today was an unfortunate day. Just after Boss had left, Gongsun Darren had arrived. It was fine to interact with Boss, but he couldn't help but tremble whenever he interacted with Gongsun Darren. Whenever he saw Gongsun Darren's peerlessly bashful smile, he couldn't help but shiver. "Darren, do you have any orders?" Bowie was very respectful. "I've come to find Fiend Soul Beast beads." Gongsun Cha was slightly embarrassed. For some unknown reason, when he saw Gongsun Cha's shy expression like that of a 17-year-old, Bao Yi's legs started to tremble slightly. How many do you need? Give me all of them." Gongsun Cha seemed to be even more embarrassed. If it was any other person that came to Bao Yi and said this, he would definitely kick them in the face. Opening their mouths and demanding all of a certain material? Go dream. But facing Gongsun Darren, he said with the utmost respect, "Yes." Immediately, he used the fastest speed he was able to achieve to take out all the Fiend Soul Beast beads, and gave them to Gongsun Cha. Gongsun Cha contentedly left. Bao Yi's legs softened, and he sat down on the ground with lingering fear on his face. He finally sent off this killing god. However, he was slightly puzzled. What did Gongsun Darren want so many Fiend Soul Beast beads for? Chapter 399 Weaknesses. How was your troops' harvest today? A vermilion bird Camp Shioja asked his comrade beside him. "All right. It's better than a few days ago. We killed 2 Fiend Soul Beasts, but our luck wasn't bad, and we got 1 totem fragment." This fellow was truly proud inside, but he pretended to be indifferent. "You guys really got lucky," the other said with admiration. "I don't know what is going on right now. So many good things becoming available at once. Did you see that Darren has announced 3 more kinds of formations that can be engraved?" "Yes. They're really good." He licked his lips and was full of desire. Much stronger than the engraved formations that were carved previously. However, the number of points that need to be used is really not cheap. There's no reason for good things to be cheap. The person seemed very experienced. And it's just for us. Outsiders don't even need to think about it. Even Ma Fan Darren has been furiously hunting Fiend Soul Beasts these days. Isn't it because he wants to trade for the engraved formations? That's true. Everyone is crazy. Who can sit still now? I'm not going to chat, going to work now. The faster I get points, the earlier I can get the formations engraved. In these past days, the relatively peaceful camp's ambition had instantly been ignited by Zuomo's announcement. He had announced the 3 new formations, and the number of points needed for them to be engraved. In addition, it was also announced that the mission for obtaining points would be the collection of totem fragments and Fiend Soul Beast beads. The number of points needed for each of the 3 newly announced formations were not low. But when everyone finished looking at the descriptions of the three formations, their eyes instantly turned red. A furious hunting wave had started due to this. Compared to Vermilion Bird Camp, Guard Camp was much more peaceful. The engraved formations did not have much use for them. What they cultivated was the fleshy body, but it did not mean that we're not moved to action this time. Fiend Soul Beast beads and totem fragments could be traded for points. For them, points were also of great use. However, Shulong did not leave the camp, and instead stayed locked up inside his tent by himself. He was cultivating Great Day Hardship Guard. This MO skill had been greatly modified by Puyao again. Compared to Hardship Guard, Great Day Hardship Guard was higher level, but the cultivation difficulty had also increased greatly. Out of caution, Puyao had Shulong cultivate it first to prevent any problems from appearing. Hardship Guard was a MO skill especially suited for those that did not have outstanding talent but were persistent. The Great Day Hardship Guard that Puyao had modified had used Hardship Guard as the basis for a new MO skill. Even though his primary area was Yao Arts, to a peak expert like him that could touch the core nature of power, one solution was every solution. His knowledge was extremely broad. To say nothing of Yao Arts, he had studied an extraordinary amount of spells and MO skills. Even Wei praised it after analyzing this Great Day Hardship Guard that he created. Afterwards, Wei had made adjustments to some details and further perfected it. The Great Day Hardship Guard, for which two great experts had teamed up to create, was a top-level MO skill even in the MO world. But this top-level MO skill was not so easy to cultivate. Puyao had added in many methods of cultivating from the Great Day MO physique, or rather, the cultivation of MO physiques. The cultivation of MO physiques was extremely dangerous. Shulong's entire body was tense. The armor on his body liquefied at a rate visible to the naked eye into a jet-black liquid. Moments later, this black liquid wrapped him completely to the point even his eyes could not be seen. The hardest step is over, Puyao said, indifferent from within Zhuomo's consciousness. I feel some anticipation. Wei's eyes flashed. If he can really cultivate into a MO physique. He did not say what was after, but Puyao understood what Wei meant. If Shulong could really cultivate into a MO physique, that meant that the possibility that other people could cultivate into MO physiques was very high. In the MO world, the ability to cultivate into a MO physique depended on bloodlines and talent. If Shulong could really cultivate into a MO physique, that Puyao undoubtedly had opened a completely new path. To cultivate into a MO physique by cultivating MO skills, instead of innate talent. Wei was very clear about the terrifying power encapsulated in this. Such a terrifying madman. Zhuomo's expression was ugly as he stared at the totem fragment in his hand. There was an aura of ancient desolation in this tiny fragment that made him think of the wasteland beast. Even though the presence of the totem fragment was not as powerful, vast, or savage as the wasteland beast, that bleakness was extremely similar. However, the bleakness of the wasteland beast carried a deathly stillness, and the bleakness of this totem fragment had birthed an extremely tiny thread of vitality. That was the Ling kernel. Tens of thousands of years had caused this little fragment of life essence to birth a thread of cognition. He was almost certain that normal forging methods were unsuitable for the totem fragment. Normal forging methods could easily destroy the Ling kernel of the totem fragment. That would be a great pity. Zhuomo placed great importance on this totem fragment. Due to this, he had specially used the Great Day Banded Flame to reforge the Sonic Lightning Walnuts to familiarize himself with the more domineering and purer Great Day Banded Flame. It had to be said that the 6th grade flame's strength was as extraordinary as expected. He had almost forged a Sonic Lightning Walnut into a pile of silver water. The dominant nature of the fire could be seen. This also caused Zhuomo to realize his weakest area. The skill of a forger was primarily decided by 3 factors. The first was forging knowledge. One had to be familiar with all kinds of materials, their combinations, and the formations. The second was cultivation. One's cultivation directly determined the control over the flame, the carving of formations. The higher the formation, the more complex it was, and the more it demanded of Ling power. The third were forging tools, fire seeds and cauldrons. If it was a water method, one also needed ling springs and cold ponds, etc. Zuomo was not weak on forging knowledge. Even though he did not understand high-level forging methods, he had read a great variety of forging jade scrolls. In the area of formations, the entire Golden Crow camp had no one that could compare to him. After the grind of the 10-finger prison, the endless Yao arts broadened his visions and his affinity for formations came even more easily to him. And tools were his strong points. 6th grade Great Day Banded Flame was definitely a peak fire seed that could not be bought with Jingshi. His weakest area was cultivation. When he had been reforging the Sonic Lightning Walnut, he had detected this. In terms of cultivation, he was just a Ningmai. Originally, he had not felt this kind of cultivation was low. But when he had channeled the Great Day Banded Flame today, he had found just how weak his Ling power was. The Great Day Banded Flame was like a colossal being, and his Ling power wasn't enough to even get a good glance at it. If the Great Day Banded Flame had not been formed from his Great Day Mo physique, and was from the same origins, he would have been harmed in the backlash, much less channeled it. Now Zuomo was depressed. What was more depressing than having a treasure and not being able to use it? Cultivation. He was stuck at cultivation. Deeply struck by this blow, Zuomo ran into the Sea of Consciousness and found Pu Yao. He asked without any greeting, "Pu, is there any methods that can immediately increase my cultivation?" Pu Yao looked at Zuomo like he was looking at an idiot. "What do you think Ling power is?" Zuomo was unsatisfied. "Are there really no methods? I do have a good amount of spells here." Pu Yao glanced at Zuomo. "But with your quality of physique, you probably have to cultivate 10 more years to reach Jindan. Unless you have worldly treasures. Do you have such things?" Zuomo was instantly sorrowful. Worldly treasures that could increase cultivation. How could he have those? With his present Ling power, it was a delusion to think that he could control the 6th grade Great Day Banded Flame. It wasn't that he had not thought of using formations to control the Great Day Banded Flame, but no normal materials could tolerate the 6th grade Great Day Banded Flame. Damn it! Wasn't he wasting it? Zuomo turned to Wei. Wei also showed an apologetic expression. He also didn't have any good solutions. Coming out of the Sea of Consciousness, Zuomo's mood was terrible. The Great Day Banded Flame was a top fire seed. The totem fragment was a top material, but he could only stare at them. It wasn't even as good as Golden Crow Fire. That was just 4th grade, but at least he could control that easily. He finally realized a great problem. Ling power would always be his greatest weakness, and he had to improve in it, unless he wanted to give up on dan making and forging. No matter if it was Yao arts or Mo skills, they were very powerful, but they could not replace Ling power's uses in other areas. Fine, he wouldn't think on it so much. Surviving and leaving the sealed extinction battlefield was the biggest priority right now. Zuomo quickly let go of his mood. He ran into the 10-finger prison. He first went to the Yao city and received a letter left for him. The writer was a Yao named Mingju Zi. He had written detailed inquiries on what kind of information Zuomo needed on the Battle of Sealed Extinction. This letter instantly caused Zuomo's low mood to rise greatly. Compared to his losses in forging, the information on the Battle of Sealed Extinction was much more important. He hurriedly wrote a response and replied to every question the other had. After doing this, Zuomo's depression was swept away. He excitedly ran to the Wasteland Beast chessboard to find Nan Yu and Song Zhe. However, he did not find the two but found Song Lin first. This young person was gradually recovering, and was very happy when he saw Zuomo. Song Zhe was one of the primary hopes of the clan, and was urgently cultivating Grey Scar art. A short while later, Zuomo saw a slightly tired Nanyu. Due to the defeats at the front lines, everyone was furiously cultivating now. Nanyu had a strong feeling of danger, and was furiously teaching her clansmen to cultivate. Zuomo thought of Nanyu's financial situation. The front lines had lost, so the prices of necessities would definitely have skyrocketed. Nanyu's days were probably very difficult. He gave a portion of the money he had to Nanyu. Having experienced war, Zuomo told her to spend more time on cultivation. In troubled times, strength was the basis of survival. Nanyu pressed her lips together tightly. She did not refuse and seriously nodded. Zuo explained in detail what to pay attention to during wartime. These were all his experiences. Nanyu was not the only one to listen carefully. Song Lin, who was at the side, hurriedly cast a recording Yao art to record Zuo's words. Zuo's stream of words caused Song Lin to think. Had Darren experienced war before? Was Darren at the front lines? His heart was filled with questions. Chapter 400. Draft Notice. Zuo was downcast at the thought that his Ling power was a constraint, but he was not demotivated by this. Instead, it had roused his fighting spirit. Didn't have any other ways? What he first thought of was the 5-element glass bead inside his body. This 5-element glass bead was of extraordinary origins, and greatly increased his affinity towards the 5 elements. When he had been at Wukong Mountain, he had benefited greatly from this. At present, the 5-element glass bead was not one of Zuo's top talismans, but it was closely connected to Zuo's origins and had a special importance. Zuo had always been preoccupied and was unable to study it. At this time, Zuo thought of it. The 5-element glass bead had merged into Zuo's blood and flesh, so he could only inspect it with his consciousness. However, when his consciousness inspected the 5-element glass bead, it was blocked by a gentle power. Zuo stilled. He recalled that Pu Yao had said to him that something was sealed inside the 5-element glass bead. A cautious expression came onto his face. This Ling power was not strong, but it was very pure. The sealer should be a Xiuzha above Jindan. Surprised by his finding, Zuo didn't think much about it. In these 2 short years, he had encountered many battles, and had almost died a few times. His life philosophies had also changed. Like his stance regarding his changed appearance and his origins, he still cared greatly and would endeavor to discover the truth, but he would not be as impulsive as he had been in the past. Facing the threat of war, living in an unpredictable environment where he could perish at a moment's notice, surviving was more important than anything else. Having personally experienced the cruelties of war, he knew just how small and insignificant a person's life was. They were like a sapling in the middle of the storm. It took all of his strength to struggle and search for that thread of life. After being baptized in battle, his heart was much stronger, and his self-control was stronger as well. Pu Yao had also clearly told him that he could not break the seal on the 5-element glass bead with his low cultivation. So Zuo was not astonished about his failure. His consciousness wrapped around the 5-element glass bead. Zuo tried to find the smallest weakness in the seal, but this thin layer of Ling power showed him that difference between cultivation stages was not so easy to overcome. He shook his head, withdrew his consciousness from the 5-element glass bead. His hopes of using the 5-element glass bead was bankrupt. Then what methods were there? While Zuo's mind dwelled on the topic, a light flashed through his mind. He thought of another method, Yao arts. Could he use Yao arts to forge? Yao arts could also control fire. Of all Yao arts, 5-element Yao arts were something every Yao knew a little of because they were powerful and easy to learn. Zuo's fire Yao art skill was not his best, but it wasn't bad. However, the fire of fire Yao arts and the fire of forging had fundamental differences. Formations needed a medium in order to be engraved onto talismans, and flames could act as the medium. Fire Yao arts might have powerful fires, but they could not be used in this manner. Why so? Zuo sank into thought. If things were different, Zuo would not waste time on such a ridiculous problem, but there was no way around it. Even if it was ridiculous, he still had to do it. As he thought, Zuo's right hand unconsciously cast a fire Yao art. The simplest fire Yao art of little Yao arts, fire. A weak flame wavered on the tip of his finger. Zuo was extremely familiar with little Yao arts. His mind did not need to move, and the wisp of flame twisted and danced around his finger like a snake of fire. He closely felt every detail of the wisp. The snake of fire was very nimble and spirited. Deep in thought, Zuo completely did not realize the flow of time. Draft notice. Heavy Earth Core had sent a draft notice. Nanyu looked at the draft notice in her hand. Her heart suddenly sank. The draft notice was compulsory. The tense wording requested the draftee to report to Heavy Earth Core before a deadline. The one being drafted was not Nanyu. She did show potential, but her strength was not enough that she qualified for a draft. The draft notice was for Darren. Nanyu quickly understood. They could not find Darren's location, but it was not hard to find her origins. Her mood instantly became dour. She had followed Darren for a while and generally grasped Darren's temper. Darren definitely would ignore this draft notice. At that time, conflict would be unavoidable. Which person was scheming against Darren from the shadows? She turned and looked at the clansmen that were working hard on their cultivation. Her gaze was full of worry, but then her determination rose up. She quickly entered the Wasteland Beast chessboard. No matter what, she had to let Darren know as soon as possible. Darren would definitely have a solution. She was filled with confidence. The black fire wrapped around a golden armor guard. The golden armor guard stood motionlessly, like a wooden puppet. Pu Yao's hands were like two blooming flowers. Yao arts rained down and entered the bodies of the golden armor guards. Pity, the materials are a bit lacking, Wei said with slight pity, due to the combination of Pu Yao's skilled techniques and the large amounts of black fiendish energy the golden armored guards absorbed from this vicious and fiendish ground. They had the conditions to level up. The only thing Wei felt pity about was that these golden armor guards had all been Xiuzha that cultivated the sword before death. The door-sized swords they held were frightening to see, but if it was a MO with a strong body, the power would have been several levels higher. Let's just work with what we have, Pu Yao said lazily. Compared to the past, these days are already much better. And Wei nodded and agreed with Pu Yao's words. This vicious ground Tizwa MO and the others was undoubtedly a poor one. However, for Pu Yao and Wei, it was much better than Wukong Mountain. At the very least, they no longer needed to constantly worry about that withered old man suddenly coming with his sword to exterminate Yaomo. Your student seems to have encountered trouble, Wei reminded Pu Yao. I can't help him, Pu Yao said unconcernedly. His hands did not stop. Do you understand that the methods of Xiuzha forging? Wei shook his head. MO cultivate their bodies and cannot forging. It's not that you cannot understand, but there is no need to understand. Pu Yao was clearly opposed to the Xiuzha methods. Yao cultivate the spirit, MO their bodies. Why do they need to forge? If he wants to work on forging, he can only rely on himself. Wei was silent for a moment before he suddenly said, why not let him cultivate Yao arts and MO skills at the same time? If you don't want all of us to end up dead, it's best if you do not have such a dangerous idea, Pu Yao said warningly. If he dies, you and I cannot escape either. It already makes me feel unsafe that he cultivated a MO physique. Who made it so that your MO physique cultivation is so dangerous? I don't want to die so soon. MO physique cultivation is not as dangerous as you think. Pu Yao impatiently interrupted Wei. If there are safer ways, then why risk it? Do you have a problem with your head? If you want to find a successor, other than him, you can pick anyone. Guard camp has so many people, just pick one. Shulong isn't bad, how about it? Have you considered it? Wei shook his head. His talent is not enough. Wake up. Pu Yao was full of disdain. Look at our state, you are still holding on to those traditions. It's already good if you can find a successor, yet you're still so picky. Pu Yao ranted on disdainfully, but his hand movements did not slow at all. When the last few lights entered the bodies of the golden armor guards, he finally showed slight satisfaction. The golden armor guards were completely transformed. The scaled golden armor that had covered their bodies had disappeared. A complete suit of heavy black armor replaced it. The heavy armor was fitted so well it seemed like one object. They were like metal monsters. The terrifying presence that emanated from their bodies made people fearful. Black spikes protruded from their shoulders, elbows, knees, and other important places. The tip of each black spike was a strange blood-like red. At the crown of their helmets was a rhombus-shaped golden mark that resembled the blood rhombus on Pu Yao's forehead. Pu Yao rubbed his chin and scanned the new golden armor guards. He said to himself, These trashy swords are no longer suitable. Oh, that broken sword in Wei Sheng's hands isn't bad. I wonder where he got it. A moment later he shook his head and muttered, "Never mind. First we will work on this. Let's think about weapons in the future." Suddenly, Pu Yao raised his head and his eyes flashed. At the same time, Wei also raised his head. Lei Peng and Nian Lu's faces were pale white. After Darren had announced the Fiend Soul Beast hunting mission, everyone was very enthusiastic. Other than engraving new formations, a piece of gossip was secretly passed on. The totem fragments were materials that had Ling kernels. Supposedly Darren had already tasked the Golden Crow camp with studying the forging talismans out of the totem fragments. Those with foresight instantly detected the opportunity. Their past experiences told them if Darren gave something to Golden Crow camp, it probably was in preparation to give to everyone. No matter if it was the new formations, or the new talismans that hadn't been forged yet, they all needed to be traded for by points. If they didn't take this opportunity to earn points, were they dumb? Lei Peng and Nian Lu were stronger than the average Vermilion Bird camp members, but they were still weaker than Ma Fan and the others. The two of them decided to pair up to hunt Fiend Soul Beasts. They worked very well together and were efficient, producing great results. The past combat experiences had not been wasted. The strength of Vermilion Bird camp had clearly increased. Many people did not even need to use the sword formation to comprehend sword essence. Of course, part of this was Wei Sheng's work. Lei Peng and Nian Lu's improvement was especially evident. The Fiend Soul Beasts they were afraid of in the past gradually became less dangerous for them. Without detecting it, they had traveled a long way from the campsite. Everything had been proceeding smoothly. Their luck was unusually good. They had encountered many more Fiend Soul Beasts than usual. The outstanding result caused the two to start fantasizing about their wonderful future lives, with engraved new formations and using their new talismans, until they encountered this terrifying Fiend Soul Beast. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.